gentlemen, history in the making. He's going to get that pass done. He's going to be the first victim of the day. Just look at the run. Look at him go to the outside line. 3 wide on the outside. He's going to hold that outside line. He knows that by doing that, he might get a little bit of advantage. 3 wide behind him in the GT battle. They touch. Less than half a second here. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the second round of the Neo Endurance Series here live on Glacier TV. Myself, Will Vincent, alongside Dan Blake and Yoni Backman and Dave Judson in the booth here today. And this is the Neo Endurance Spider 250 held at Barber Motorsports Park. Having a quick look at the track, this track has 16 corners and it has a length of about 2.38 miles. We'll be racing today for 165 minutes or 250 miles with 2 classes of cars. The Riley MX-5 Daytona prototypes and also the McLaren MP4 GT3 as well. We'd also like to very quickly say thank you to the sponsors of this race. First of all, Derek's Beer Designs, maker of button boxes. Go to dereksbeerdesigns.com if you'd like to get yourself a button box for use within iRacing, and also thanks to iRacing Denmark as well. And Dan, we'll have a little bit of a talk about this track very quickly because it is a very difficult track. You've got the 2 classes of cars here today, and it's going to be important to keep your emotions in check all race long.
Yeah, this track's it's very undulating, a lot of uphill, downhill sections, and it's a track I think the drivers will enjoy it though. It's one of those tracks where it's very satisfying if you get it right, but if you get it wrong and you don't do so well here, it's going to be a long race for you.
It's going to be a long race indeed, and qualifying has taken place. We'll run through the grid in a couple of moments' time, but importantly, Ricciardo Towler getting pole position, and I'd say the top 5 guys in qualifying in the Daytona Prototype class all have got a chance of going for the win. And don't forget as well, it's going to be a lot of strategy involved as well. When do you pit? How much fuel do you have at the start of the race? How do you negotiate traffic? So much that these drivers in both classes are going to have to deal with today.
Very much so. Strategy will be very important in this race. 2 hours and 45 minutes is an awful long time to be racing for. So strategy will be important. There'll be pit stops to make. As you said, there'll be a lot of strategy. Do you start off lighter to help you get away from the pack? Do you start heavier so you can get back in there? It's really quite interesting. Do you stay out longer or do you come in earlier and pull away? That's the sort of conundrum they'll have to go through today.
There's going to be many a conundrum in this race. We have a total of 41 drivers who set a qualifying time as well. And in fact, when you have a look between the time differences, and this is going to be the important part, in qualifying, Ricciardo Towler, the fastest guy in the Riley, was 5 seconds faster than Kimmo Suurman in the McLaren. And when you have a look at the slower guys in qualifying, you're looking at anywhere between about a 5 and 8 second gap between the Rileys and the McLarens, and that's going to make a big difference on a track like this. The race, laps only 1 minute 15 or so long. That means that you're going to be coming into lots of traffic very quickly.
Very short track, so yeah, traffic will be coming in the box very quickly. And I saw when they were in qualifying, some of the drivers were saying about how interesting it could be if the McLaren field was still quietly bunched together when the Daytona prototypes come through. That really could spark some fireworks off if there's big groups of McLarens and then you've got the DPs behind trying to barge their way through.
And talking about the McLarens briefly as well, we know how good the racing can be in this class. And you've got Timo Suerman leading the way in the number 5 machine in the McLaren field. And there as well, it's very close. You've got yourselves, the top 3 drivers pretty much separated by just 1/10 of a second. On the racetrack in qualifying, you've got a very close field all the way down it as well. And importantly, you have to say that, we've got ourselves 20 of the Rileys, we've got 21 of the McLaren, so it's a very evenly split field as well.
Very evenly split, and there's about, from Kimo Suminen, who is 120.8, you go down about 11, 12 cars, they're all within a second of each other. So I think very, very close to the McLaren field. I think that's going to be a great race to watch.
And we're just going to go and have a run through the grid in very briefly. We'll start first with the McLarens. No, sorry, we'll start first with the Rileys, the Daytona prototype class, and Ricky Alatara getting pole position, time of 1 minute 15.872. He was about a tenth of a second faster in qualifying than George Sandman in the 02 machine, who will line up alongside him in row number 1. Row number 2, that will have David Ward in the number 69 car in 3rd position, and then lastly Bryn Hansen in the 4th spot in the number 84 machine. In row number 3, you have Nick Thiessen in 5th and Kevin Parrish in the 6th spot. In row number 4, Liam Williams in 7th and TJ Yazak in 8th. Row number 5, you have Kim Veldel Osby and Dave Geimer. And row number 6, Bert Entelmans and Steve Hobbs. Row 7, Wim Stockmans and Michael Mias. In row number 8, Zach Hill and Simon Geimer. In row number 9 will be James Wallace and Dave Letmarsh. And then in row 10 will be Max Zagarno and Conrad Venter. Then heading over to the GT3 class, the MP4 12-GT3, McLaren Kimo Suerman, first place in that class with a time of 1 minute 20.856. Second place, Stefan Mudler with a time of 1 minute 20.945. Saber Voika in the 3rd spot, Mohammed Patel in 4th. Oliver Brand and Julian Alango will line up in row 3 in class. And then in row 4 of class will be Kevin Vakemans and Maxime Ramstein. Row 5 in class will be Randolph Chenworth and Farouk Manzar. Row 6, Dennis Gerrisman and Hugh Pakalami. Row number 8 will be Matti Ratti and Richard Julian. In row 9 will be Anders Dahl and Mike Fnanuson. In row 10 will be Stefan Coppins, Robert DeRouge. Then you have Gert Hodem, Jan Brom and Chuck Johnson. They all round out your field. And we've got ourselves about a minute before the cars head over to the grid. And as I say, we'll be racing here today for 165 minutes, 2 hours and 45 minutes worth of racing. And on a tight track like this, it really will put the drivers under immense physical and also mental stress throughout the course of the race.
Track's also quite narrow as well at points, especially when they come down the hill with turn 7 and turn 8. That's also quite narrow most of the way around the track, not much room for error, and there's barriers quite close to the edge of the track on some corners, so definitely concentration will be key this afternoon.
And to have a look through this race as well, you've got the cars landing up on the grid now. They will probably be doing somewhere in the region of 2 pit stops over the course of this race. When they're going to do it, we normally expect the cars to come in probably on the hour mark. So at pit road, the first window will be from about 45 minutes to an hour. Second pit window, depending on when the guys come in, it's a lot more bigger window that second time around, from about an hour and a half all the way to 2 hours into the race. And then, of course, it'll be a dash to the line from there. Some drivers might consider doing free stopping. Don't expect many of the guys to do so here today. And having a look at the cars as they're lining up behind the iRacing.com pace car as we speak, making last-minute checks to their cars, lining up beautiful paint schemes, in fact, we've got today, having a look through some of these cars. But, gonna put you on the spot here very quickly. Who do you think is going to win in each class?
Well, that's a very, very tough question, Will. There's quite a few drivers, as you said, in the DP field, the likes of Ricky Alatalo, George Sandman, David Ward, Lassie Brun Hansen. They're all proven that they are, as far as DP goes, they are the very, very quick drivers. And in the McLarens, I think Kimo Suminen is probably the class of the field there, I've got to say. But I think the DP battle really is going to be tight, and only one of 4 or 5 drivers can win that.
In fact, our in-race supporter for today is the pollster to the number 21 Glacier Racing Machine of Riku Alatalo. Now, Riku, you got pole position, time of 1 minute 15.873. Leading the field to green here. You looking forward to the race?
Yeah, it's actually the first time I put my race set on, so it'll be fun to try and see where I can go with it. It's not easy track to pass, so if I can just hold the pace, I think I should be fine.
You talk about how it's not an easy track to pass. I mean, you're going to have to deal with a lot of traffic throughout this race. Any concerns at all about negotiating your way around the McLarens?
There's quite a lot of straight lines here, even though they're not that long, but there is, and we have quite a speed advantage, so I think it shouldn't be that big of a problem.
And final question, because you're now rolling up onto the grid. Think you can win today?
Well, if I can keep it on track, I think I might just have the chance.
Well, good luck in the race. Riku Alatalo, our in-race supporter, starting in the first position in the number 21 machine. Dan, they're working themselves right now out of corner number 2 up to turn 3. This part of the racetrack is deceptive here because the next braking zone, it's downhill and you think you can brake late, and it's a very fine line between when you can, still make the corner and just shoot off and almost try and hit that spider.
Some of the drivers, I think we will see drivers, but during the course of the race get their braking point wrong in that corner, and they find themselves going straight over the grass and into the gravel, just because that corner is so deceptive. With it being downhill, it can be very deceiving, so that'd be a point of interest. And also, I think we'll see the DPs there. That'd be must be one of their main opportunities to overtake the McLarens. So later in the race, maybe we could see more risk taken with DPs trying to get past the McLarens there, and they may be the DPs that maybe ends up in that gravel trap just through a bit of rash manoeuvring.
And as is always the case, these first couple of laps, the drivers are going to be looking for any position they can gain before it all settles down.
Very much so, early position race, but also they got to remember that it's 2 hours and 45 minutes of a race. You got to really weigh it up. Do you want to get those positions early on and risk maybe damaging your car and having a very, very long day, or is it maybe wiser to wait just a little bit and not go the first couple of laps for it? It's really interesting, because I know there'll be drivers who think have both sets of mentality. There'll be some who right from the start will be going for positions hell for leather, and then there'll be others who may be a bit more passive, but as the race goes on they'll start to get a bit more aggressive as well. It's all a case of strategy as we now come towards the end of the formation lap.
Pace car makes that turn on towards pit road. Riku Alatalo in row number 1. On the left hand side, we have George Sandman alongside him. The Rileys are set to go racing for 2 hours and 45 minutes. The green flag now on the air. We are racing here in the Neo Endurance Series. It's a good start there by David Ward. He tried to make a move down the inside, thought better of it. Behind them, everyone kind of through the first corner okay. Now having a look now to see as well about the McLarens. They now start their race. It was a good start by Kimo Sermon. Devin Mudge has got a very good start actually, and because the Volkers, they all fall into line, but as it looks for the time being, as the cars working themselves up the hill for the first time, it is still Riku Alatalo in the race lead. Bit of logjam, but in the front of the field, they're all running where they started.
Riku Alatalo got a real launch off the start. He seemed to keep everyone asleep. He had nearly a second lead, but George Sandman has already started to catch him back up, and David Ward also had a very good start from third on the grid. He went to make the move on Sandman, as you said, but he thought better of it and is stuck behind George Sandman.
So they're working away down into the chicane for the first time. This section of the racetrack really is fast, and then you head yourself down into turns number 11 and 12 on the racetrack. Things really, it's a difficult part of the racetrack here actually. You've got to make sure you hit your marks, because it's so easy to throw that car away, as they're now going to get close to completing lap number 1, and as they come past the line, we'll give you confirmation of the gaps, but it is Riku Alatalo leading the way in the Daytona Prototype class. He comes past the start-finish line to put his first lap in the books. The gap between himself and George Salmon is 4/10 of a second. In third place is David Ward, a further 1 second back. Lassie Brun Hansen in fourth, and Nick Thiessen in the 5th position, still within 3 seconds of the race leader. We have one early casualty, and it looks like Michael is out of the race. Michael Miles there in fact, no, he's still running. I'll take that back, but to move over to the McLaren, the GT3 class very quickly. Kimmo Suman is still leading the way. The gap between himself and Stefan Mutschler is currently at about half a second on the racetrack, and Kazuba Volker is already starting to fall back early on here.
Mohamed Patel is starting to make a bit of an impression on Volkan. Looks like he's holding up maybe a group behind him, so it'll be interesting to see if Patel is able to make a move on him, because it seems like he is quicker than the cars in front of him.
And now they work themselves down into turn once again, and having a look actually, and this field is spreading out a lot quicker than I expected it to, especially in this GT3 battle, because I mean you've got Mohamed Patel in 4th and Julian Oligo in the 5th position, and they're kind of all strung out very quickly. And what we normally see in these races, you see a lot of people trying to make moves, you know, when they've got their tyres at their optimal temperature, when they've got everything working for them at the start of the race, they try and make those moves early on. Having a look over in the DP field, actually, it's a good battle going on right now between David Ward and Lassie Bruhansen, getting very close as they're working it through turn number 2 and 3 once again. And I do have to say, Dan, that David Ward has got a lot of Bruhansen all in his rear ring at the moment.
Yeah, I think Dave went out a bit of a sweat on in that pink car. Lassie Bruhansen, as we know, an established driver in the DP field, has won races before in it, and he's going to put David Warren under a lot of pressure. He's also got Nick Thiessen and Kevin Parrish not far behind him as well.
Battle of the teams as well. Lassie Bruhansen in the Apex Racing UK car, trying to close down David Ward in the Banshee Autosport Durex machine as they work themselves down into turn 9 and 10 once again. I actually really hate this corner. I've done a number of laps here at this racetrack today, both in the Riley and also in the IndyCar, and I've never been able to get the grip of that corner. This is more fluid, this section of the racetrack, but now the corners they're coming into, this long 13, 14, 14A, you don't know really where to brake on a lap by lap basis, and this is where it's going to get very interesting with multi-class traffic a little bit later on into this race. But meanwhile, to check in on your race leader in the Daytona Prototype class, Ricky Adatale, now the gap is closed down to about a third of a second, and George Salmon right now is looking strong.
Ricky Alatano put his wheels on the grass a little bit coming on the straight, which lost his momentum and saw Sandman catch a lot quicker up to him. But those front two are starting to pull away from that battle for third with David Ward, Lassie Bruhansen, Nick Thiessen and Kevin Parrish. So the front two are starting to make a little bit of a break early on. There's about 2.5 seconds between George Sandman in second and David Ward in third.
So the podiumassault.com car there, or George Sandman, currently sat in the second position in the 02 car, charging down Ricky Adatale in the number 21 Glacier Racing car. Don't forget, you can keep in contact with us all race long. 2 choices of hashtag today. Either use hashtag GlacierTV or hashtag IRNeo. And this battle in the DP is going to be very close all race long. We want to know who your favourite guys are in this race, as we're going to quickly flick it back over to the world of GT3 and Kimmo Suman. And that gap is also closed between Suman and Mutschler right now. And it looks as though that Mutschler is putting the pressure on Kimmo Suman in that battle for the first position in the GT3 class.
Also, we saw the earlier on Volker maybe thought he's holding them up, but he seems to have pulled away again from Mohamed Patel. And as you said before, the gap for the lead between Mulsar and Sumanen is pretty close as well. Mulsar is not letting Sumanen out of his reach, and also, as I said before, Volker seems to find a bit of pace as well in third place in the McLaren class.
And having a look between these drivers as well, let's not forget, you know, gaps on the racetrack, they're always superficial in this type of racing, because you might be able to get yourself, especially in the Rileys, you know, a 2, 3, 4, 5 second gap, but as soon as you hit that traffic, chances are that gap's going to come right down again. And I think today it's all about kind of carrying that momentum as much as possible, not allowing the traffic to phase you, not allowing the fact that you've just lost 4 seconds because of a little bit of traffic, you know, in the wrong place at the wrong time. You've just got to kind of keep mentally focused, and that, I think, more than anything in this race is going to be the key.
I think that's going to be one of the big challenges of the mental focus and sharpness, because when they come across traffic, a little mistake in traffic can end your race. So it's definitely going to be one of the key areas of this race, and at the moment there shouldn't be I don't think it's going to be too long before Ricky Alatani comes across the traffic. He's got Chuck Johnson about half a lap in front of him, so give it another 2-3 laps maybe and we can see that traffic effect starting to take place.
I'd like to bring in Dave Judson into this conversation as well. I mean, you've done a lot of multi-class racing at trikes like this, and as soon as the traffic hits, it's going to get very difficult, and patience is going to be a key thing in the prototype class.
Absolutely. Well, sometimes patience seems to be more important than speed, because if you really push it too hard, it doesn't matter how fast you are. If you get in the back of a car and get damage, it'll ruin your race.
It will ruin your race indeed. And having a look at that battle still between Rico Alatalo in first and George Sandman in second. Last time by, Sandman was, I'm talking about 4/100ths of a second here. And these two, that gap kind of stabilises around half a second throughout this race. And it's going to be tough, I think, for Sandman to find a way past Alatalo. And I think his best hope right now, Dan, is going to be waiting until that traffic and seeing if he can find a gap. But he's not that much faster. And let's not forget, he's getting the draft. Of course, that's kind of going to be compounded also by the dirty air effect, which will kind of even itself out. But Salmon isn't that much quicker right now.
They're running about the same pace, but as Ricky Alatalo said earlier, he thinks he's got a good chance of winning if he can stay on the track. Maybe Sandman's, another philosophy Sandman has, maybe trying to force Ricky into a mistake here.
Could be indeed, and it's going to be interesting, the battle between these two. Both of them very cool and calm, collected. George Sandman, you know, driving for Club California, he's one of the calmest guys I think I've ever met in this series, and Alatalo as well will just sit there and turn laps. Very rarely I've seen a mistake by Alatalo. In fact, I think the one that we did see was on GlacierTV. That was back at the Indianapolis race when just one downshift cost them the entire race. And going to be interesting about that as well, you know. So many downshifts on these upshift, downshifts on this racetrack, Dave. So much to come, and don't forget on these cars, especially in the prototype, one missed shift and your game's going to be over. And you're using that gearbox an awful lot here today.
Yeah, you're really relying on the gearbox to get you slowed down quickly. It's a really fine line in terms of, you know, downshifting fast or missing a gear and possibly blowing your engine.
So to run for your top 10 in each class, it is Rico Alatalo leading the way in the Daytona Prototype class. The gap is about 2/3 of a second on the racetrack right now. David Ward in third is already 4.7 seconds behind your race leader, and Lassie Brun Hansen is in the fourth spot, with Nick Thiessen rounding out your top 5. Then it's Kevin Parrish, Liam Williams, TJ Yasak, Dave Geimer, and Kim Vedel Osderby. They are your top 10 drivers in the Daytona Prototype field. And then to head over to the GT3 class, as Dave LaMarche is pitting in, so early incident for him by the look of it. In the GT3 class, it is Kimo Suman leading away from Stefan Mutschler, with Kasir Volker in third, Hamid Patel in fourth, Julian Oligo in fifth, Maxim Ramstein in sixth, Oliver Brandt in seventh, Cameron Beekmans in eighth, Rick Manzara in ninth, and Hugh Pakalami rounding out your top 10. Now, let's have a look in this GT3 class actually very quickly, because you've got Mohamed Patel, Julian Oligo, Maxim Ramstein, and Oliver Brandt all doing very similar lap times right now, Dave. And you know, they're within about 2 tenths of a second on the racetrack, very closely sprung out. It's interesting because neither of them's really gaining, neither of them's trying to put any moves on anyone at the moment. But the important thing is they're already 47 seconds behind the Riley race leaders, and within about 5 laps, they're going to be having to deal with a lot of traffic.
Yeah, traffic's going to definitely come into play for these guys pretty soon. Especially on a tight track like this, it's going to be hard for these guys to, you know, not get run over, or maybe have a guy behind them be impatient. But they might just be kind of running right now, get some laps in. It's a long race, 2 hours, 45 minutes. So they might just be feeling each other out still, see where they can shake out later.
So Dave LaMarche has made a pit stop. He's come back out in the 34th position, trying to get himself past some traffic right now. I'm not quite sure what happened there to the 07 car. He wasn't awarded a penalty from race control, so maybe he just was running qualifying fuel or something. I'm surprised at what he took tyres and everything. So surprised pit stop this early on. Not quite sure what Dave LaMarche is doing there, Dan.
No, not sure. Maybe he has. Maybe an error with qualifying with fuel or something. But as you said there, very peculiar to see someone coming in that quickly.
Meanwhile, Rico Alatalo has now caught traffic, and this is where things are going to get intriguingly interesting, especially this first time as well. You're kind of feeling yourself through. You're trying to figure out, you know, where can I do things with different cars? Where is it more appropriate for me? Where are the people going to give me the opportunity? We're on board with Alatalo as he just goes past there, Chuck Johnson in the number 16 machine. And you see already Simon right on his tail. He's going to be lucky here, Alatalo. He's probably going to get past these 2 cars before they get down into turn number 1, if he's lucky. Of course, one of them is the Daytona Prototype of Dave LaMarche. And this is going to make things more difficult now for Alatalo to come down to turn 1. He's going to be able to get past the Carlsberg car there of Jan Boney, who just falls right back down. But Alatalo, his first bit of the traffic done, and no issues there for him, Dan.
No issues. He was a bit lucky there because Lamarche could have boxed him in, but he didn't. So Ricky Alatalo dodges a first bullet, but I'm sure there'll be plenty more coming his way in the rest of this race.
Indeed, and George Sandman is right on his tail, so any incidents there for Alatalo, and he will have George Sandman going right past him. Having a look, actually, just trying to figure out if Dave Lamarche, he qualified in 18th position, so he was 2 seconds off the pace, so he might start holding Alatalo up a little bit, but this early in the race, especially as they've got all of this GT3 traffic ahead of him, I don't think Alatalo's, in the mood as he goes sideways off track, and this is going to hand the race lead perhaps over to George Simon. Indeed, yes, it does. Simon on the outside. Alatalo out.
Oh, it's another mistake. It's a mistake there from Ricky Alatalo. He may lose some more positions here because David Ward comes past him, and also while we were away, Kevin Parrish has found a way past Lasse Brun Hansen as well. But Ricky Alatalo again, we've seen this from him before. I remember there was a race at the VIR where Ricky Alatalo made a mistake and put himself into the wall, and yeah, it's another mistake for Ricky, which is very rare to see.
The mistake itself at the chicane, turn 11 and 12. It looks so Alatalo just got his car a little bit sideways, used too much of the curb as he was trying to perhaps shift down a gear, got himself back onto the racetrack, and from my angle, I'm having to have a look at it from a number of different angles to see whether or not Alatalo was the one who caused that incident. It actually looks as though Dave, that kind of Simon almost just came across him a little bit.
Yeah, I think that George thought that he was going to kind of give him the space and give him the corner since he had slowed down so drastically after going off, and Rico did not. And I think George kind of caused that incident there getting into him.
So replay up on your screen as you see, just as they come down into the second part of the chicane, this sweeping S. It just looks so. I think he just took the air off of his car. It was a minor touch. Alatalo will be able to carry on, but that really has hurt his chances at race victory. And importantly, he is currently about 6 seconds behind new race leader George Sandman, and he's got to get through a lot of traffic and try and find a way to get past David Ward.
Yeah, he's not in a good spot right now. He's going to really have to test his patience here and see if he can survive this traffic here and get in a groove and get back up towards the leader.
So Salmon is your race leader in DP class. David Ward in second, Alatalo in third. Will Alatalo try and force the issue and get past David Ward quickly? The 69 car there, the Banshee Eurosport car of David Ward, and the number 21 machine of Ricky Alatalo driving for Glacier Racing as they work themselves up the hill through that sweeping corner that is turn 4 as they head themselves down into turn number 5. And Alatalo, it doesn't look, thankfully, Dan, like he has much damage.
No, he seems to be on a similar pace as before. He's right into the back of David Ward, but that little incident between Salmon and Alatalo actually strung out the field a bit as well, because Kevin Parrish, Nick Thiessen, in fact Nick Thiessen's found a way past Lasse Brun Hansen as well. So Lasse Brun Hansen's lost a couple of places, but it's spread out the field a bit as well because they were quite close. But with the Alatalo and traffic, it seems to have spread everyone out a bit more.
And then behind them, you've got Liam Williams in the Apex Racing UK number 15 machine. He's been right now charged down by TJ Yazak in the Team Turkey Motorsports car as they work themselves down into turns number 11 and 12 once again. Yazak's going to lose out big time there because of the traffic, and this is what I was talking about, David. In a race like this, sometimes you're lucky with the traffic, sometimes you're unlucky. Worst thing TJ Yazak could do right there after that is try and push the issue into the next corner. Heat his tyres up too much and put himself in the wrong momentum. You just got to take each corner as it goes, and by the time you're out of it, you have to move on.
Yep, you got to put each unfortunate situation behind you, get held up a little bit. Things usually tend to even out, and he got held up. Liam got held up a little bit next couple corners, so he was able to maintain that gap a little bit.
Meanwhile, Ricky Alatalo, David Ward side by side, and they've got slower traffic ahead of them. This is going to help David a little bit. No, you see Alatalo there's going to make it a free wide and the run down to the chicane. Look out, boys. Alatalo going to move himself back up into the second position. Cuts right across David Ward there, coming down into the chicane section of the racetrack. And that was a very close call there, Dan.
Very close indeed. It could have been a second contact for Ricky Alatalo in this race, but he did well to make the move, come back across, and they both survive. Alatalo goes wide though,
Off
and
he goes again.
David Ward gets past him, and it's another mistake at that same corner for Ricky Alatalo. He's really struggling with that corner today, it seems.
He's struggling indeed. And go on, David.
No, he's just being very aggressive. He's taking every chance, it seems like, right now to try to get back up the lead, and it bit him again.
And the issue is as well, it's like, you know, if I had to tell that corner, I said earlier, I have issues with it. If you can't get fluidity through that corner, it can cost you half a second a lap. And it's such, because it's not a straight chicane almost, it's not a straight S-bend. The first apex for it is so tight, and then it kind of opens out just as you need to accelerate. But it's not very easy corner to take, but Alatalo now down into the third position and off once again. So Alatalo's there. I'm wondering maybe he might have got a tiny bit of damage, and he has got a little bit of damage, not too much, but it will be upsetting the balance of his car just a little bit. But he's still running in that third position. I think he just needs to hold on for the next couple of laps and think about his strategy. But meanwhile, we've also got a pass going on right now. And we've got Simon Geimer and Mikel Miles right now. They are battling for position. This is for 12th and 13th positions on the racetrack. And it looks like that Mikel Miles there has been able to get past that.
Yeah, it's gone past Simon Geimer there. It was on the early stage of the lap. By the time they got into turn 5, he's gone through. Went almost 3 wide on the main straight. But it was indeed the car Mikel Miles who took the position.
And ahead of them, you've got Simon Geimer, who's trying to work with those guys as well. And it's very close on the racetrack. It does actually look like Geimer is trying to close that gap back down, but lost pretty heavily there as they were working themselves through the traffic of Jan Borny. And Chuck Johnson and David LeBon there just having an incident and just came into my view there. But it looks as though that the McLaren of Chuck Johnson just turned right across David LaMarche, and they're both going to be able to carry on there. But a bit of a dirty move, Dave.
Yeah, the DP had the line there, and there's really nothing for Chuck to gain by, you know, cutting him off like that. And yeah, I'm sure that'll be stored in the memory bank there for that driver there.
Meanwhile, checking in on your race leader in the GT3 class, Kimo Sermon. Right now, he has himself a 2-second gap over Stefan Muschler. So he's been able to pull that out over the last couple of laps. In turn, Muschler has been able to pull out a 2-second gap over Kasper Volker Jr., who in turn has now got himself about a 1.2-second gap over Mohammed Patel. So, Dad, it kind of is right now starting to spread out a little bit in the GT3 class. Of course, as soon as the traffic comes, and that will be in the next 3 or 4 laps. As soon as the traffic comes, it's really going to start shaking things up a little bit.
Yeah, it doesn't just spread out the DP field, it spreads out the McLarens as well, because they're having to take lines they wouldn't normally take, and as a result, it's slowing them down and it's interrupting their races. It must be quite frustrating for them as much as it is the DPs when the traffic comes along.
A little bit of an incident there, well, a little bit of a battle between Kevin Parrish even and Nick Thiessen, battling for 4th and 5th positions on the racetrack. Traffic came into play, but it's going to come into play a lot now as they work themselves through turn number 3. Race control issuing a warning there to the number 26 machine for abuse of team radio. So that's an interesting penalty there. But Thiessen trying to get past Kevin Parrish. They're working themselves through a lot of traffic now. And this is going to be interesting over the, especially as they come down to the chicane, because David Ward's going to be able to pull out a huge gap here. Nick Thiessen is going to have to hope, and in fact he's very lucky there, that Kevin Parrish wasn't able to get past Mike Thiessen as before they came out of the chicane. Now Parrish will go past, and this is the point of the race that you've got to be calm. You see Thiessen automatically there losing himself about 7/10 of a second just because he couldn't take his line into turn number 9 and 10. Now as they come down into 11 and 12, he has been able to get past the traffic. But, you know, Dave, that's the sort of thing that multi-class racing is. Sometimes you're lucky. And once again, Thiessen is going to lose out a little bit there as Parrish was able to get past Dennis Garrison, and Thiessen has to wait until the main straightaway.
Yep, that's the nature of the beast of multi-class racing. Sometimes you catch a break, sometimes you don't. Just practice your patience, get by the cars when you can, when it's safe, and get back on that horse and chase the next guy down.
To have a look at your GT3 class, it is still Kiro Suman with that 2-second gap over Stefan Muschler, and in 3rd place is still Skaber Volker, in 4th Mohammed Patel, In 5th is Julian Oligo. In 6th is Maxim Ramstein. In 7th is Oliver Brown. In 8th is Kevin Bakerman. In 9th is Luke Manzar. And rounding out your top 10 is Shua Pakalami in the number 36 machine. And I'm very intrigued about this midfield battle, mainly because it has Oliver Brandt in it. And Dan, you remember from Thursday, you remember from years ago, we talked through racing. Oliver Brandt was always that guy who kind of came alive in the middle part of a fuel stem. And right now he's sat in 7th position in class, and he's got Ramstein and Oligo ahead of him within about a second and a half. And it's going to be interesting to see if he comes alive early on in this race in that first round of pit stops. As Ricky Balatalo, is out of the race.
Ricky Balatalo out of the race, and that'd be a huge blow for him. He said before the race he hoped he was going to win this race, but it doesn't. It'd be interesting to see what's happened there with Ricky.
That corner bit him for the 3rd and final time.
Yeah. Replay will be up on your screen in a moment, but it was turn number 9 and 10 once again, and it was just abusing the curve. I think that was his issue. He just hit the curve at the wrong angle there, Dave. That sent him sideways, and that time, when he tried to put the car back into a straight line, he caught the curve as he kind of went over the grass and the asphalt, and that just speared that car back to the left into the outside retaining wall.
Yeah, Barber demands that you follow the line just right, especially through that left-right complex there, and he's missed it twice and got away with it, and the 3rd time it really bit him, and unfortunately that took him out of the race.
So, first big casualty of the day, and it is the Pulsar Ricky Balatalo in that number 21 machine. But to go back to what we were saying before, Dan, Oliver Brand is a dark horse for getting himself perhaps onto the podium here.
Definitely, we've seen many times before, Oliver Brandt is the master of fuel conservation. If there's anyone who can keep the fuel, and he's under pressure here from David Ward in the DP. He's got to be careful about this. He gets number 3, I believe, now, but yeah, for sure Oliver Brandt will be one who will stretch the fuel out, and if there's anyone who's going to be able to be the master of strategy in that McLaren class and push himself through through the field, it's going to be Oliver Brandt.
Oh no, David Ward sprinted into the wall for David Ward! Just coming out the final corner, his race will be done, and he's going to try and get that car straightened up. But Dave, that was coming out the final corner. I've done this so many times myself. Coming out the final corner, just took a little bit too much of the curb, and that car just sped. There's nowhere to hide in that final corner. Slammed into the safer barrier. It's game over for David Ward almost.
Yeah, unfortunately, good run for David Ward, ruined by dropping those tires off the opposite side of the curb there, and gets into the grass, and you just lose all traction, and it hooked him right into the front stretch fence, and he's got so much damage. He'll be lucky to get back around to the pits in one piece.
Yeah, he's driving. That car is all completely bent up there. The Durex machine there of David Ward, the number 69 car, going to struggle to bring that car back to pit road. He's still circulating. Actually took the chicane very nicely there. But I'm just having a look to see exactly how much damage that. The front, pretty much the entire right-hand side of that car is completely toast down.
Yeah, it's very, very unfortunate for David Ward, who's running so well, but it doesn't seem to be affecting him that much. He seems to be driving at a speed which is about. There's another car behind him, which is the 20. There's a car behind him, and David Ward is actually going at the same pace. He's coming towards the pits now. Is he going to bring it in? Yes, he is.
And the rear of his car, cover your stump before you bump, but David Ward is going to have to bring that car down towards pit road. We'll see whether or not he can get some repairs to that race car. But he was running the 2nd position and now is out, going to almost pretty much be out of the race. So your top 5 in the Daytona Prototype class, it's George Salmon, still your race leader, Kevin Parrish still in the 2nd, Nick Thiessen in 3rd, lastly Bryn Hansen in 4th, and then Liam Williams running out your top 5. David Ward brings that car down onto pit road. Let's see if they put tyres on that car. He's going to get some repairs to it. And a 15 car there, Dave Lamarche has been black flagged, and I think there, Dave, that was the incident with earlier on with, what do we call it, Chuck Johnson.
Yes, also the 07 is getting a 15-second avoidable contact black flag as well.
So it's a lot of penalties being handed out by race control. This is the thing on this racetrack as well. It's a tough racetrack to kind of negotiate. You can't really, it's not a case that you can dive out the way for these cars as easy as a place. I don't know, like Silverstone, for example, Dan, and it means that tempers will run high over the course of this race, and you've got to be you've got to use your mirrors here quite a lot.
Yeah, got to use your mirrors because, as you said, Will, it's a very packed track, and also, as I said before, it's actually quite narrow compared to some of the tracks. There's not much space to make your moves. You have to make them at the right times, and tempers will get frayed because the DP cars will be trying to get past the McLarens as quickly as possible to get on with their races, and they will be very frustrated.
And having a look, in fact, we first of all would like to welcome up David Ward into the broadcast booth. And David, you just lost it there in the final corner.
Yeah, just ran a tiny little bit wide, clipped the grass. The guys are going through repairs now, but it's like 8 minutes, so we'll get back out and see if we can score some points.
But until that point, you're doing pretty well. You moved yourself up into the second position. You had some great battles with Italo, and you also had a good battle at the start as well. What were your aims before that incident?
Just take it easy through the traffic, and because it's a long race, you don't really want to push it too hard, but I got a little bit greedy on the track boundaries. It's so easy out of that corner just to drop a wheel on the curb, so fingers crossed we can get back out there.
Fingers crossed indeed. We'll let you go back down to your pit crew, see if there's anything you do. If not, we'll probably see you back up here again soon. But having a look at Anders Dahl, he currently right now is sat in the 03 car in the 14th position in class, but he's kind of catching a couple of cars right now. Red Julien especially in the number 14 Motul machine. But the way this field is working out right now, Dave, it's kind of very subdued almost. There's not been too many passing for position right now.
Yeah, things have gotten strung out. I'm sure some of the other competitors are aware of, 2 of the top three guys have run into trouble and are out of contention for the win. Sometimes that is a driver that kind of takes you down a notch. You want to just kind of serve your stuff, don't run off the track. You realize that you still got over 2 hours and 15 minutes to go in this race. Still a lot of time to battle, pick and choose where you want to make your passes. And then once the wreck gets by for 15-20 minutes, these guys will start hammering each other again.
And James Wallace, Dan, has had an incident off the last turn.
Yeah, it was just coming off of turn 14. He was in a good battle, and he just seemed to let the brakes go across the grass. He has carried on, but he's lost a lot of time there. So unfortunate for James Wallace.
And he is now in the 12th position in the prototype class. There is a huge gaggle of cars right now on the racetrack ahead of Anders Dahl. You've got Radilot Julien, you've got Simon Geimer putting a lap on Mike Thiessen right now. You've got Mikael Melis still involved in that battle with Simon Geimer. You've got Dennis Garisam, then ahead of them you've got Wing Stockman and Hugh Pakalami. And it's almost that thing, it's like, Dave, you sometimes forget who you're actually fighting with and who you're not.
Yeah, depending on, who you are. Some guys have their relative screens up. Some guys, have their lap time counters. The crew's telling them how fast they're going. It's easy to lose track of who you're racing against, especially in such a long race and lapping different cars in different classes. Yeah, it can be hard to keep an eye on everything.
And Dan, as we approach the half-hour point of this race, it's going to exacerbate itself even more, especially if the guys want to split strategies. You're going to have to kind of remember who was where when the first person went down onto pit road, and kind of hope that you're still ahead of them once you come out of pit road. Perhaps maybe 2 stops later.
Strategy, as you said, is important. People will be doing different strategies, and it's the long run really. Some people may find themselves in positions they don't expect, but then when it all sort of filters out and goes back to normal, they'll realise that they are where they thought they were. In a way, that can be quite deceiving for the drivers, thinking that they're not doing as well or maybe better than they think they'll be doing, and then when it all filters out, they realise that they're in a similar position to before. It certainly is an interesting race in that respect.
The 75 car, Simon Geimer there, just almost was able to get back past Mikael Melis, wasn't able to do so at the very last second, and Simon Geimer slots back into that 11th position. You are also having a look on board there with Lasse Brun Hansen in the 84 car as he goes past the Dave LaMarche, who's now actually scored as 3 laps down in this race. So struggling there is Dave LaMarche. However, ahead of them, say Lasse Brun Hansen working himself through some traffic right now. See a little bit of rear damage actually there to Brun Hansen's car, Dave.
Yeah, he has a slight bit of damage there. Must not be affecting him too much because he's still able to continue in 4th place. And he's got about 2-second lead over 5th as he gets a little loose there. So maybe when he hits the pits, they can do a little repair and get him in a little better shape.
David Ward back out onto the racetrack. They've done some work to his car, giving himself some extra protection, and off he goes back onto the racetrack. Russell Hanson, just incidentally, is now up into 4th place in that 84 machine in the Daytona Prototype class, as we put half an hour now into the books of the 2nd round of the Neo Endurance Series, the Spider 250 here on GlacierTV. Will Vincent, Dan Blake and Dave Judson in the booth for this race, and the story of the day so far really has been two of the big names in the Daytona Prototype class involved in incidents early on. You had Rico Latalo, who just couldn't get going with turn 9 and 10, and eventually he put himself into the wall, and David Ward there, a huge chunk coming out the last corner, puts him now 2 laps down, pretty much out of contention for the time being in the number 69 machine. But we're going to turn our attention briefly over to the wonderful world of GT3, and it's still Kimmo Surman leading the way there, and he's now pulled out down a pretty big gap over Stefan Mujlar.
Yeah, Kim Assuminen he's put his head down, got some good laps under him, and he has pulled out a gap of probably about 4 or 5 seconds to Stefan Moshia, as you said before. So an interesting, but also Volkas has not really dropped back from the 2nd place car. He's still within 2 or 3 seconds. You'll still be able to see him in his windscreen. So that'd be 2nd place battle might hot up eventually.
Yeah, the gap right now is about 3.4 seconds between Kimmo Surman and Mujlar on the racetrack, and also the gap between Mujlar and the gap between Mujlar and Volker right now. Now that is about 2.7 seconds on the racetrack, and you're kind of in that gap region, Dave. That you get a load of riders coming past you at the same time, you can gain or lose that time very quickly.
Yeah, depending on how the faster class guys catch you, you can kind of follow them, and they can help you catch up to some of your competitors, and maybe open some gaps for you.
And right now, that battle also will continue with, you've got Mohammed Patel. He's only 2.2 seconds behind that 3rd place driver of Volker Jr., Dan. So right now, Patel's still in with a shout as well, and you can pretty much also say the same thing just about for Julian Oligo, who's enrolled in a big battle with Maxim Ramstein. In fact, Ramstein is going to try and look to the outside as they come down into chicane. Thinks better of it. But Ramstein right now all over the rear of the 89 car, Julian Oligo.
One of the better battles at the moment for sure. Maxim Ramstein and Julian Oligo fighting it out for what is 5th in class, but they don't want to be fighting amongst themselves for too long because they will lose track of those cars. And that's a mistake there, a little bit onto the grass for Oligo, but he's not lost too much momentum there. But they don't want to be fighting for too much because they'll lose the ones in front of them for the time being. But it is a long race, so there will be an opportunity to catch back up again.
Indeed, and Ramstein, that car is looking very solid. And don't forget, we're about halfway through a fuel stint right now. It's about this point in a fuel stint that you really will see any of the negative issues with a car setup, be it in either the Rileys or in the McLarens. Because especially in the McLarens, you'll see the rear end start to twitch out a lot more. It'll be more difficult to get the power on, and you'll see the cars will just start slowing down if they've got issues with their tyres, if they've not got their setup working properly for the long haul. And Dave, right now, it looks like Maxim Ramstein, even though he's in the dirt, doing a good job sat behind Julian Oligo.
Yeah, that shows that he's got a good setup, that he's able to stay in the draft in that kind of, dirty air, and he's able to stay right with him. It looks like he's just biding his time right here, trying to maybe see his competitor's weakness, and then he can pounce on it when he needs to.
Kimmo Surman last lap actually lost quite a lot of time as well. We're trying to figure out exactly what happened to him. Having a look at his laps, let's have a look to his laps very quickly. And for Kimmo Surman, he lost 2 seconds in that last lap, and I think that pretty much was with traffic, Dan.
I imagine so. That's the sort of time you lose, but that's put the pressure right back on him now because Stefan Mogia is not far behind him at all, and also Sasko Vodka is also not far. So the top 3 in that class are probably separated by no more than about 3 seconds. So that'd be very, very interesting to see that battle come into fruition.
And as we were talking about that, Dave, even, It's like, you know, one little mistake, one little thing, that gap closes pretty dramatically. And we saw just there now that Muslar is now just 0.8 of a second behind Kimmo Surman as they work themselves down into the hairpin once again.
Yeah, and that's what's a fun part about endurance racing. It's you don't always have to be the fastest guy, but if you can keep your car on the track, you can make things up, and that's what he's been doing right here.
Issue for Mohammed Patel. Looks as though he's brought that car down towards pit road, and he was coming down onto pit road actually, and he very nearly ran over someone, and that was Jan Brony. I'm just trying to check to see whether anything happened to Mohammed Patel earlier on in that lap. But Mohammed Patel came into that lap in the 4th position, and I'm having a look to see if anything happened to him. There was a little bit of bumping actually going onto pit road, but it just looks like an early pit stop there from Mohammed Patel down.
Yeah, we said that some people would have different strategies, and looks like Patel has decided to pit earlier. It'd be interesting to see where it's put him out. Is he in traffic? And there's cars coming into the pits now. Musha is into the pits along with Kimmo Sumanen, I believe.
Yep, so your top 2 guys coming down on towards pit road to make their first pit stops of the day. Kimmo Sumanen in the number 5 Glacier Racing car, and then Stefan Mushlar there in the number 18 machine, both down on towards pit road. And this is the first big challenge for the pit crews to see whether they can get these cars out quickly. Let's not forget, we are only about 40 minutes into this race, so the way it is for these cars, they're going to have to make themselves quite a lot of pit stops in this race, Dave.
Yeah, getting in and off pit road can gain you a significant amount of time, a lot more than you can make up on the track on your own sometimes in a lap. So in and out laps are really important as well. Getting in your box just right, especially with how many pit stops they're making. If you are not as fast and you miss 0.2 every stop, and you do 5 stops, that's a second. That could break the race.
And Mudlar takes the position away there from Kimmo Sumanen on pit road. So Mudlar is your new race leader. Kimmo Sumanen right there behind him. We're going to come back onto the racetrack. There'll be a little bit of traffic ahead of them, but it looks as though only one car, and that is a slow car actually there, of Kevin Parrish. So for these two now, they've got the chance to just actually have a big battle, and it looks as though also Kaseba Volker closed that gap down a little bit as well. So the battle is now on, Dan, between Mudlar and Kimmo Sumanen.
It's a battle between all 3 of them really. They all came in at exactly the same time. Volker also made a pit stop, but the pit crew, Mushala, have done a really good job. They've got him in front of Kimmo Sumanen. Now it'd be interesting to see what Sumanen does. He's been leading for so long, but now he's got to try and find a way past Mushala again, so that'd be worth watching. And also, we said earlier about Oliver Brandt, and he actually now leads the GT3 field, so he's come to the fore.
He's now down on towards pit road, so making his first pit stop of the day. But let's not forget, Oliver Brandt was in about the 7th position at one point, so it'll be interesting to see whether or not he can kind of leapfrog those drivers I was talking about, Dave.
Yeah, he wasn't too far behind when the pit stop started. If he had a really good in lap, he might be able to make up a significant amount of time. It looked like he got into his box really well.
Yeah, he's always been one of the better drivers, and we know that, Dan. He's always one of the best drivers on and off of pit road. And the key laps that you talked about, those in laps are out lap, it is the point where Oliver Brandt is really one of the best in the field right now.
We saw that on Thursday at the race at Sebring. Oliver Brandt really, he made the pit stops where he made a lot of time and positions through there, just because he has that in-lap pit stop, out-lap sequence down to a T really. So let's see what happens when he comes out. How much time has he made on this one?
Yep, so Oliver Brandt back onto the racetrack, and it looks as though right now he's about 6 seconds behind Maxime Ramstein, but has been able to get out ahead of a couple of drivers actually. I'm having a look. Oliver Brandt is able to get out ahead of Kevin Breekman, and he's ahead right now for Farouk Manzar as well. So it looks like it was a good pit stop for Oliver Brandt. Currently sat 5th in the, 6th actually, sorry, even in the GT3 class. He's 6.1 seconds behind Maxime Ramstein. So to run through your GT3 field very quickly, it's Stefan Mushlar, who is currently your race leader. And Mushlar did a 25-second pit stop. Compare that to Kimmo Sumanen's 26.4 pit stop. Compare that also to Volker Jr.'s pit stop of 25.8. So Mushlar, the fastest guy on pit road that fast time by. Kimmo Sumanen in 2nd, Kaseba Volker Jr. in 3rd, Mohammed Patel 4th, Oliver Brandt in the 6th position because Maxime Ramstein passed him on pit road. So Maxime Ramstein in 5th, Oliver Brandt in 6th, Kevin Beekman in the 7th spot, Farouk Manzar in 8th, Mike Svenson is in the 9th spot, Hugh Pakalami in 10th. And let's turn our attention now back over to the Daytona Prototype class. Kevin Sandman still leading the way, but right now he's dominating That gap, Dave, is 8.2 seconds between himself and Kevin Parrish.
Yeah, Salmon's been doing very consistent, solid laps, staying on track, not making any mistakes, doing well through the traffic, and he's pulled a very nice gap. He can be a little more easy passing some of the slower cars. You know, the pressure's not on him to try to get by guys as fast as he can. So he's in a good spot right now. Long way to go. You know, one mistake, you know, could take anybody out of the race, but right now he's definitely in the position that he needs to be to maintain this lead here and keep pulling the gap.
And for Parrish right now, it's just that case of damage limit. I wouldn't say damage limitation even. He's got a pretty sizable gap to Nick Thiessen in the 3rd spot, Dan. So it's just a case of holding fort right now. Not get too despondent about the fact that Simon's putting out a gap ahead of him, and just hoping that, you know, the traffic works out for him a little bit later on in this race.
Yeah, it's a very long race. It doesn't have to be all done now. And also, we've had a spinner at turn 5 in the GT3, Stefan Coppens, and I think he's now actually retired from the race. So unfortunate there for Stefan Coppens. In fact, he's kept on running as Stefan Coppens, but he's had a spin at turn 5.
It looks as though the free car got a warning there for exiting pit, unjustifiable exiting pits. So we're working ourselves right now with about 2 hours left on the plate clock. We'll get ourselves a replay what happened to the free car there in a little moment there. But Dave, it looks so race control really are being strict on pit exit as well, with good reason, because that really does just blend into the apex of turn 2.
Yeah, you don't want guys flying out in front of guys at race pace. So it's really good that race control's enforcing those rules strictly, because there's no need for, you know, a guy to come out and cause an accident for no, you know, unjustified reason.
And the free car, of course, is that of Mohammed Patel, who's been having a good race up until that point, but it looks as though that he was trying his absolute hardest to make sure he didn't lose out with Kasiba Volker and also the cars behind him, Dan.
No, he doesn't want to lose time to those behind him, of course. But yeah, looking at George Salmon at the moment, and he's pulled out the last couple of laps, another 3 seconds over Kevin Parrish. It's now up to 11.2 seconds his lead.
So we've got a replay up on your screen with what happened to Mohammed Patel when he was on pit road, and yeah, we're having a look at his pit exit. And basically, what happened was he came back onto the racetrack. And then the way it worked is just as he came into turn 2, so you see it coming up on your screen in just a moment, I believe there was traffic ahead of him as well, and that's what the issue was, the fact that he wasn't allowing the traffic to go past him. We'll get word from race control on that, however. It was an unjustifiable risk there, it says race control. So basically the fact he came back out onto the racetrack right in the thick of the action and didn't yield to the battle between Robert de Rouge and Nick Thiessen. So good call there by race control, Dave.
Yeah, definitely with 3rd place overall in the class coming through. He basically kind of came out right in front of him. Could have caused a big issue for Nick. Lucky he didn't get damaged there. So hopefully Mohammed learned his lesson there, and he'll be a little more careful on his next pit exit.
So right now, to run through your top 5 in the GT3 class, it is still Stefan Muschler, in fact, who is leading the way. And you've got Kimo Surman in the 2nd position. In 3rd is Saber Volker Jr. In 4th is Mohammed Patel, and Maxime Ramstein rounds out your top 5. And let's talk about Kimo Surman very quickly, Dan, because now he's in that 2nd position. He's not being able to make an impression to get up to the rear of Stefan Muschler that quickly.
Maybe he's saving his tyres or saving the car to have a real push later on. As Muschler, obviously, he's not driving slow. He's racing at quite a high pace for the McLaren. So maybe Sumanen's just happy to stick behind him for a bit and then make a move later on.
And Kimo Surman, he's still got that gap to Kazeba Volker Jr., Dave. So he still is there kind of in the picture. So, but it's intriguing because in clean air, Kimo Surman was able to start putting out a gap. Now he's in that dirt yet. Looks like he's struggling a little bit more, and I don't think that he actually expected to be passed on pit road.
No, he's been quick all race, and now that he's back in you know, a more vulnerable position, being behind other cars and having to be dictated by their air coming off of it. He's not quite where he wants to be, but man, he closed the gap there when that DP moved through. So we'll see what happens here.
And behind them, there is a battle going on, which you're just seeing on your screen there. This is between Mikael Miller on the racetrack right now, and he really has been in the thick of the action all race long. Mikael Miller's there in the Daytona prototype, currently sat in the 12th position in class. He's got James Wallace ahead of him, and it looks like he's just lost himself a couple of positions this last lap, Dan.
Yeah, James Wallace was one of the guys who spun earlier. Well, he didn't spin, he had a bit of an off-track moment coming near the end of the lap, and he's managed to go past Mikael Militz, who was actually racing with Simon Geimer before, and now he's dropped back a couple of positions, so it'll be interesting to see if he can get it back again. It seems like he's had a bit of a struggle the last lap or so. And Wallace nearly went off again there. But James Wallace nearly lost it coming through turn 15, but he held on to it well.
So the number 10 car there of Mikael Miller is now down into the 12th position. And don't forget also that we're only about 5-10 minutes away from pit stops in the Daytona prototype class. And this is going to be, I would say it's not going to be interesting, it's going to be intriguing to see what happens, especially with some of the cars out front. If you have a look right now, Kevin Parrish is 9 seconds behind George Sandman, so that's not going to be a big issue. Neither will necessarily be Nick Thiessen, but for example, Lassie Green Hansen and Liam Williams, there's a chance those positions can get shaped up. And also down the field as well, you cannot afford to have a bad in-lap or out-lap, or a bad pit stop at all here, Dave.
No, you got to be solid every chance you get, because yeah, you might have a 10-second lead now, but you get a bad lap in and a bad lap out, and you get a bunch of traffic, you could lose half of that in a lap.
And to check in on your race leader, George Sandman, in that 0-2 car. He has led most of this lap, most of this race ever since the incident of Alitalia earlier on. And his fastest lap of the race, now that was set on the 3rd lap of the day, and that was a 1 minute 17.169. His last lap was a 1 minute 20.491. And it looks as though that these cars, these righties, are getting slower over the course of the run for some of them, as Sandman there just making the pass on Mikael Milas there to put him 1 lap down in this race. But Sandman still looking strong as he does a 1 minute 19.0 that last time by.
Yeah, Sandman is looking strong. He's been strong most of the race, as you said, and he's in the position now where he can dictate what happens with his pit stop as well.
To go back over to GT3, Kimmo Suman has caught up to and is hunting down Stefan Muschler right now in the battle for the GT3 race lead. Now, Kimmo Suman's last time was a 1 minute 22.195. Compare that to Muschler of a 1 minute 22.075. It's very close right now between these two drivers. And don't forget also that Suman is now back into that dirty air, so he's got to try and find a way past at some point soon.
Yeah, and both of them have actually started to pull away a bit there from Volker. He's dropped back a little bit, but it's these two in front, Muschler and Suominen, who are keenly watching now. I think Suominen has had enough of being stuck behind and is going to look to try and make that move. He had a little go on turns. There's some gravel being kicked up as well there, so going in through turn 5. But these two, as they come now towards the downhill section, we'll see Kimmo Suominen, I think, going on the offensive pretty soon.
Gap right now between those two drivers are just 0.5 of a second. Meanwhile, Chuck Johnson brings his car onto pit road, so the first of the Rileys really to make his pit stop of the day. And it's kind of around that time now we do expect to see pit road open. In fact, Chuck Johnson actually is a GT3 driver, completely apologise for that, but he's brought that car down onto pit road, currently running in the was running all the way down in the 18th position in the GT3 class. It looks like he's retired that race car, Dan.
Yes, he's retired the race car, and also got a black flag here for Stefan Coppens from Race Control. Interesting to see what that was for. He did have a spin
Same
in
incident.
turn 5.
Same incident by the look of it. Because Coppens was right behind. Yes, it was. Stefan Coppens and Chuck Johnson were battling for position, and this is what caused the black flag there for Stefan Coppens, would be for avoidable contact. But they were working themselves on the racetrack and coming down into the hairpin. Coppens just made a very late move down the inside, never made the corner, locked up his brake, went straight on, and pretty much just took Chuck Johnson out of the race, Dave.
Yeah, that was an unfortunate move as they were coming through that bend there. He really just dove it in there and, yeah, just flat wiped him out. no need for that, and that's why race control issued the penalty.
And Chuck Johnson was not happy about that. He brought his car right alongside that of Coppens to say, what the hell have you just done? But Chuck Johnson will be out of the race. Stefan Coppens' race will pretty much be done as well with this black flag penalty. So he will now have to make that journey down towards pit road. In fact, he has made that journey by the look of it. He's made that journey onto pit road, and he will be way down the field right now. And I think there'll be some damage there to his car as well. In fact, note Coppens is also out of the race.
Yeah, Chuck's got a lot of damage there in the rear from all that contact and the little bit of extracurricular activity after the incident. Hopefully his pit crew can get him straightened out a little bit and he can at least maintain a solid pace for the rest of the race.
So we are approaching the 1 hour point now of the Neo Endurance Spider 250 here on Glacier TV. And this race so far, it really has been changing all the way through this race. But the consistent factor has been George Salmon in the DP field leading the way. His gap right now is 10 seconds over Kevin Parrish. In the GT3 class, that battle continues between Stefan Muschler and Kimo Sermon in the battle for the GT3 race lead.
It's a shame really that we lost Riku Alatalo and David Ward from that DP race, because they really are. The DP field seems to be almost static at the moment. There seems to be no real action as such. Lassie Brun Hansen and Liam Williams were quite close together at one stage, but Brun Hansen seems to have pulled away a bit. He's now about 5 seconds clear of Williams, and really there's not much action at all going on in the DP field. They all seem to be pretty well spread out.
Yeah, they spread themselves out a lot more than we expected it to be this early on into the race, actually. And it's going to now change this race for number of drivers, and they've just got to kind of drive to a lap time. And they've got to make sure that they don't do anything stupid. They drive within their means, drive within their limits, and just, you know, it's so difficult, Dave, to pace yourself for one of these races, knowing that at a particular point the car ahead of you might be a little bit faster, but you always seem to forget that the guy ahead of you might be on lighter fuel, for example, and you've just got to try and hit your own deltas.
Absolutely right, Will. Just exactly how you said it. Hit your line, hit your marks, and you know where you're at in a fuel run. Yeah, it's tempting to compare yourself to the guy in front or behind you, but guys are on totally different strategies throughout this whole race, so you got to run your own race and hope things work out for you.
Dave Geimer, James Wallace making their journeys onto pit road for the first time. And Dave Geimer, he was kind of halfway down the field. He was in 8th position at the time. He's back out onto the racetrack. And also, say, James Wallace making his first pit stop of the day there.
Also in the GT3s, Mujala seems to have pulled out a bit of a gap on Kimo Sumlin. The way traffic has gone through, he's pulled about 2.5 seconds clear, so he's trying to make a bit of a break, and I think with help from the DPs, he's actually starting to pull away a bit.
And Dave Geimer almost had a huge moment there with Nick Finidson. And it's just as Geimer was coming out of pit road, I wouldn't be surprised if race control actually give a penalty there to Dave Geimer for that moment, because it was very similar to what happened with Mohammed Patel. In fact, you could actually argue that it was a little bit worse. He came at least halfway down the racetrack, but meanwhile, the 14 machine on the racetrack right now of Red Julien, we're having a look at him as he's just been able to, I believe, make the pass there on Dennis Garisam, and he's battling for position right now in that 14 car.
Yeah, in the McLaren field there are quite a few little battles going on, which is quite refreshing to see, because as the DPs have been a bit stringent, there's all action, it looks like, in the GT3s. We've got the battle for the lead, and also further down there, not afraid to get stuck in.
They're not afraid to get stuck in at all. I know, Dave, we are going to have to say goodbye to you in a moment, but as we getting close to concluding the first hour of this race, it really has been interesting, because it looks like there's been a lot of give and take, but as we're going to approach the second half of this race soon, that's going to start fading as the intensity starts hotting up.
Yeah, as each minute ticks by, the patience is going to start wearing thin. Guys are really going to want to start, getting by guys faster and get through lap traffic, and especially if somebody's on their tail. Patience in these endurance races always seems to go down near the end, and it'll be interesting to see if guys can keep their cool and maintain their spots, or gain some positions.
So, working ourselves right now, approaching the 1 hour mark of this race. We're going to step aside for just a moment. I'm going to show you some of the sights and sounds of Barber Motorsports Park from above. So the second hour about to commence here of the Neo Endurance Spider 250 here on Glacier TV. Will Vincent, Dan Blake going to be joined by Randolph Shenworth here for the second hour, along with Yoni Backman as well. We are racing here at Barber Motorsports Park, the 16 corner 2.38 mile racetrack. And we'll say about 60 minutes now into this 165-minute race with two car classes, the Riley Daytona prototype and also the McLaren MP4 GT3 as well. And we'd like to say a very quick thank you to the sponsors of this race. First of all, to Derek Spear Designs. Head over to derekspeardesigns.com for all of your button box needs, and also to iRacing Denmark, who are providing a lot of support for this race. Don't forget, you can keep in contact with us on Twitter. Use the hashtag GlacierTV, or if you'd like to win yourself $5, head over to Twitter and use the hashtag IRNEO. Race Control will provide the best tweet of the day with $5 just for a tweet. It's awesome. And we're having a look at this battle for the GT3 race lead. And it kind of heated up for a while, and then traffic came to play and it cooled down a little bit, but now it's going to heat up again.
Yeah, it is, because Kimmo Suminen is right behind Stefan Muja, and they've lost Volker. Volker seems to have dropped back quite a bit, so he's no longer part of this lead battle. It's two for the lead as they come down the downhill section.
Meanwhile, heading over to the Daytona prototypes, you've got a battle right now between Mikael Miles and Dave Geimer in the Daytona prototype. You've also got Kim Vidal Osterby involved in this action as well. Osterby was working very closely there with them on the racetrack. That's kind of settling itself down for the time being, but Randolph, it's kind of been very interesting because you've not had too much fighting so far in the Daytona prototype for actual position. But now this first pit stop, you know, it's going to make things very interesting for them to see whether or not, you know, fresh sets of tyres will make a big difference at all.
Yeah, guys, I have to say in the between, right as we were on the Kim Vidal Osterby, right there coming out of turn 4, he actually clipped number 82 of Gert Hagedorn out of the race in turn 4.
So he will probably get a penalty for that, so that will harm his race, and he'll probably be out with a black flag stop and hold penalty. We have seen Race Control, rightly so, on a track which is so difficult, being very firm here today. We'll get a replay of that up on your screen, and it was just as they were coming out of the chicane section of the racetrack, the blue and yellow car there just kind of clipped the rear of the McLaren, speared him into the wall. He is out of the race, and pretty much is going to be a penalty there, I would suspect, for that car. But meanwhile, let's check back in on the race leader. And Randolph, Kevin Parrish now 10.5 seconds behind George Sandman.
Yeah, George is really dominates in the DP. I mean, him and Riku were both super fast in qualifying, and I mean, I'm not surprised to see George run away with it now that Riku's out of the race.
And Sandman, you know, his last lap was a 1 minute 17. Sorry, his last lap was a 1 minute 20.028. Kevin Parrish that last time was actually faster, but you can never take anything with these lap times on a lap by lap basis. Just for the simple fact that, you know, especially right now, Sandman's got himself a lot of traffic that he's trying to deal with. He's got himself right now David Marsh and also Kimmo Sturman. He's going to try and get past. He wasn't able to do so down into turn number 1, and you saw right there, Dan, that cost him easily about a second.
Yeah, it did cost him time being stuck in the traffic there, and it allowed Muja to pull away. Were we talking about the GT3 lead, Will?
No, we're talking about the DP. Pay attention. But Sandman there, coming down to turn number 1, he really did lose a lot of time to Sillman because he couldn't make the move down the inside because one of the Daytona prototypes has already gone down the inside, and it took him another 4 corners to get past Kimmo Sturman. Meanwhile, Mikael Milas is pitting right now, so he's the first of the prototypes ready to blink, and we expect these prototype drivers to come down perhaps in the next 3 or 4 laps, I think.
Yeah, when the prototype drivers come down, I think the key battle really is between Milas, there was Dave Geimer and also Kim Vidal Osterby. The 3 are running very close together, and with those 3, we said before there'd been a bit of lack of DP battling, but those 3 were putting on a bit of a shade before the pit stops, so they come out again, I'm sure battle will recommence hopefully.
And Kimmo Sturman, whilst they've been working themselves around traffic, he is closed right back up. Stefan Muschler, the gap right now between these 2 drivers is about 5/10 per second as they come past the line. Having a look at the lap times, Suman last time by did a 1 minute 22.957. Stefan Mushlar did a 1 minute 23.410. So right now, Randolph, the battle is once again back on. But I'm still surprised that Suman hasn't been more aggressive to try and make the move here.
Yeah, he might be just trying to. I mean, it's still a long race to go. Probably doesn't want to make too many mistakes. The curbs here are pretty treacherous, and if you push a little too hard, the car will just spin around on you. Happened to me the first lap.
And we've seen that all day at the curbs. I mean, just like David Ward, just like Ricardo Italia, in fact, half the retirees of this race, the curb have been horrible for drivers here. James Wallace is on pit road. Wim Stockman's making that journey on towards pit road as well. So first pit stop time is occurring for the Daytona prototype cars. George Simon right now working himself around a little bit on lap traffic. We'll see whether he comes down towards pit road.
The top two is in a serious
really close.
Yeah.
And that was very close there, and they're still going. Kimmo Suman there and Stephen Mushler. And this will continue now for quite a while, I think, because I think Suman, he didn't seem to like that car for his first couple of laps on high fuel. He kind of dropped back a little bit, and all of a sudden they've had what, about half a stint now on this second round of tyres. It looks like the Kimmo Suman right of a sudden has just come absolutely alive.
Yeah, they're about half hour into the stint, so they got about 10 minutes left before they pit again. And it'll be interesting to see, because Spawn's last stop was shorter. It'll be interesting to see if he's saving or if he's running less fuel this time around.
Well, yeah, and you know, Dan, we can turn our attention here to Oliver Brand, for example. He said to us on Thursday that he can normally save between a lap and 2 laps of fuel every tank compared to what his teammates could do. So perhaps it could just be that Mudslide is very good on, you know, modulating that fuel over the course of the race. There is a chance to change the fuel setting, but it doesn't really make too much of a difference. You've really got to do it, you know, in the way that you use your right foot more than anything else. But for Surman right now, it's that critical part of the race because he cannot allow Mudslide to pull out a gap on the second round of pit stops.
For sure, he can't let him pull out a gap because Suminen may see the pit stops as his next possible opportunity to get past Mujar, unless there's a similar situation to what we saw earlier with the traffic coming involved. But I think Kimmo will see that as maybe one of his main chances to go through taking the lead again, because remember, that's where the lead switched in the pit stops, so maybe it will happen again on the second round of pit stops.
Lassie Brun Hansen down on towards pit road. I just saw another car coming on towards pit road there as well. We'll get confirmation of who that is in just a moment. But their lap car, I believe that was Kevin Parrish that actually is just going past. I'm probably going to take that back because it doesn't look like Parrish's car. Yes, it was Kevin Parrish there just getting past, and it was Sandman there pitting from the race lead. So Kevin Parrish is your new race leader, as George Sandman there, the first to blink in the Daytona prototype class, is now onto pit road. And having a look at Sandman's pit stop, nice, comfortable, simple pit stop for him there, no real issues. Still on his pit box, getting 4 fresh tyres and topping up on race gas as well. Now he's back onto the racetrack, he's out and away. And also it looks like Liam Williams has been able to overtake Lassie Brun Hansen. Back onto the racetrack, George Sandman comes, and it looks as though he's going to rejoin in the 3rd position on the racetrack. We'll get confirmation of that in a couple of moments because my timing and scoring just a little bit messed up, but it looks like for the time being that Simon is sat in the 3rd spot.
Correct. George Sandman is in 3rd spot, but his pit box time was 23.5 seconds compared to Lasse Brun Hansen's pit stop 16.9.
So that's a long pit stop, and this is exactly what we were talking about before the end of the first hour, Dan. That if Sandman, you know, makes a mistake on pit road, it will help bring Kevin Parrish back into play. And don't forget that Parrish right now is on track with light fuel. He's done at least an extra lap, and he's still circulating. And it's intriguing now to see whether or not Sandman actually might have light pitted all of this time, and it might be now that we see his real comparable pace to that of Kevin Parrish.
Indeed, it could be the case that Sandman's gone for a heavier run this time. As you said, he had 10 seconds longer pit stop than Lassie Brun Hansen, so it could be a possibility here that he's going for a longer stint this time.
And it always is the case here in GT racing that you never know what these driver strategies are, literally, until the end of the final. Yeah, until the end of pretty much the final stint when it all is said and done. You know, so many cars I've seen before, you know, running out of fuel on the final lap, and you have no idea what they're doing until literally come out the final corner for the last time. But right now, Kevin Parrish, having a look at his lap times, that last lap was a 1:18.711. That was just about 9 tenths per second slower than his fastest lap of the race. But right now, he's eking out a gap to Nick Thiessen, who's currently running in at the second spot. Let's see whether or not Kevin Parrish comes on towards the pit road this time. No, he doesn't, so he stays out for another lap. And every lap that he stays out is going to be a huge advantage over George Sandman, Randolph.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, he'll be able to lap longer afterwards and take every advantage you can get in racing like this, especially on a packed track, as jammed as this track can get someplace.
And don't forget, you can keep in contact with us on Twitter or RaceLom at TeroD Dalberg. This is the winning comment, and the question, hashtag IRNeo. Don't forget, the best tweet as determined by Race Control, Neo Race Control, will win themselves $5 as Nick Thiessen now pulls his car on towards pit road. So he's pitting an ugly pit-in angle, but that wouldn't be a big issue. Nick Thiessen on towards pit road, Dan.
Yeah, Nick Thiessen into the pits, and George Sandman has already gone past him, so Sandman up into second place. But I think we'll see Thiessen come out before the next car, Liam Williams, because Liam Williams is just coming through turn 14 now. Thiessen's just leaving the pit, so I think you'll find that Thiessen's down to third place overall, so won't be too disappointed with that.
No,
And if you said that George Sandman is on a heavier stint, he might have to consider taking a gasoline wagon right behind him, because that heavier fuel stint gave him 1:17.186, fastest lap of the race.
wow. So George Salmon really is on it, and don't forget, fresh tyres really does make a big difference early on. And it looks as though that podium assault car of George Salmon right now, Randy, really is just on fire. He's got traffic ahead of him this lap. That will hurt him a little bit. He's just coming right up behind it. But Salmon right now, even though he's on higher fuel, is still lapping faster than Kevin Parrish. Although that really has held him up now. But I think that's about a second and a half he's lost there, trying to get past that Red Bull car, the GT3 car of Red Hit Julien.
Yeah, I mean, the pace difference isn't as great here with the McLaren that he definitely is going to be hated to lose at that time, especially if Kevin can keep his car out as long as he's able to by the look of it. But he hasn't pit yet.
Farouk Manzar has made his journey towards pit road. Matty Ratty currently on pit road as well. Keeping an eye out to see whether Kevin Parrish makes his journey on towards pit road. We expect it to be soon. And don't forget, he's been able to do right now, what, an hour and almost 15 minutes from this one tank of fuel. So right now, he really is pushing the boat out, is Kevin Parrish, in that 19 car. He's got traffic ahead of him as well. He's got Dave Marsh, who's been off pace pretty much all day long, and Farouk Manzar as well, who's pitted. Anders Dahl coming on towards pit road as well. So he's going to get 4 fresh tyres and top up on race gas as well.
Kevin Parrish has been really held up at the moment by the McLaren and Lamarche in front of him. He's losing so much time at the start of this lap, so any time he's gaining from staying out on track, and he's been cut up near enough there by one of the McLarens. That's really poor awareness there.
You're right. I mean, don't forget, more than anything, the advantage that he'd get is the fact of being on his pit box for less time. We've seen with Simon's been able to set his fast laps of the race, as meanwhile Anders Dahl coming out of pit road, he just was able to get ahead there before one of the other cars came onto his pit road. That was Mohammed Patel making his second pit stop of the day. Anders Dahl comes back out onto the racetrack, and let's see where he feeds him. He's kind of in the mid-packs. Right now he is down in about 15th position in the GT3 class. So to turn our attention back, and a penalty there for David Ward in the 69 car for avoidable contact.
That's unfortunate for David. He was just coming up to go past the next car in position, which is Conrad Venter, who's 14th in the Daytona Prototype field, and David Ward is just behind him now, so he was just about to make up his first position on the cars following his earlier incident into the wall, and now it looks like he's had contact on the track and he's going to have to sacrifice a position he's probably just about to gain now through a drive-through penalty. Indeed,
yeah, and that 69 car, David Ward. Having a look at his lap times, actually, he was able to get most of that damage fixed, because his last lap was in 1:18.8, and when you compare that to the lap time to the leaders right now, that's still comparable. So really unlucky what happened to David Ward, because he would have been fighting for the race lead, but right now, after everything's happened to him, he's now got to add a drive-through penalty to the list of his misdemeanors in this race, and he was only running right now in the 15th position in the McLaren Daytona prototype. In the McLaren Daytona prototype, in the Daytona prototype field, but Conrad Venter goes off completely there, down at the fast S, and it looks as though for a moment he was going to let David Ward by, and then he just literally cuts over the entire track there.
I think he was pushed out a bit wide there by David Ward coming through. He left him too much room and then realised he didn't have any room to turn himself around the corner, and David Ward was very lucky there not to be T-boned. Considering his luck today, I thought maybe for a split second David Ward was going to end up being T-boned by Conrad Venter.
And Venter loses even more time.
Parrish into the pits.
So Parrish on towards pit road, so he's making his first pit stop of the day. We'll get times as quickly as we can. Bit of a wiggle as he comes down, but now 45 miles an hour is this journey on pit road. And Randolph, this is the critical stage of the race right now for Kevin Parrish.
Yeah, if he can keep making long runs like this, he'll probably be looking good. But it'll be interesting to see where he comes out behind George.
And let's not forget, he's done what, an hour 15 minutes so far. This race is only 2 hours and 45 minutes. So if he tops his fuel up now, he's looking at a splash and dash for the end of the race, and he's in a much better position pit stop wise than George Sandman at this moment in time.
But I think George Sandman's probably in a better position pace-wise. It's all very good, Parrish having good pit stop strategy, but I think it's going to be hard for him to get past George Sandman. This whole race, he's really been the class of the field, other than earlier in the race when he had Ricky Alatalo to race with David Ward. But ever since they've dropped out, George Sandman has really stamped his supremacy on this field.
Pit stops there for Kimmo Suman, pit stop for Maxim Ramstein, Kleber Volker Jr. on pit road as well. And to give you confirmation, the gap between George Salmon and Kevin Parrish right now, 12.7 seconds on the racetrack. So it's kind of as it was. Maybe Salmon gained a second or so in that sequence of pit stops, but it's kind of where it was. Randolph, there's still a lot to talk about this, because if Salmon really has taken a lot of fuel, don't forget, he's still going to have a longer final pit stop than Kevin Parrish when it is going to be important. And right now, I'm thinking that Parrish doesn't even need to take tyres in that final pit stop.
Yeah, really this race is going to come down to that last pit stop at this point. With how much farther Kevin is driving than George is. I mean, if he can get a really short pit stop, he might be close enough to fight for the lead here in the next hour or so.
And that was a bad pit stop for Saba Paluga Jr. He and Kimmo Suominen both pitted at the same time. They went into the pits pretty much nose to tail, and at the moment there's actually one car between them, the Mike T. Nielsen, who has not yet pitted the second time around, and now he's holding up Saba Paluga badly. There's already several seconds between these guys.
Wow, and Kimmo Suman, I mean, he's really got on pit stops, and that was going to be disappointing there for Volker Jr. That might put his third place into a little bit of jeopardy. Right now, your GT3 race leader is Oliver Brown. He's leading from Kevin Bakerman, and then Stefan Muschler is in the third position. In fact, no, sorry, Muschler is making his pit stop, or has made his pit stop as we're talking, and he has come back out onto the racetrack, and he is still ahead of Kimmo Suman. That gap right now between those drivers, by my watch, is 3.3 seconds, and Muschler able to eke out that advantage on the pit stops there, and that's surprising, Dan.
Muschler actually stayed out on the track a lap longer, so maybe that extra lap on low fuel has made the difference, but he did stay out a lap longer, and quite a good pit stop there for Muschler, and as we can see, it's actually extended the gap between him and Kimmo Suominen. And
it actually looks as though, Joni, you were just saying there that Suominen had a lot of traffic coming out of pit road, and that was a big part of the issue.
Yeah, that was very, very unfortunate for Kimmo. As soon as he came out of the pits, there was a one Riley coming past him in turn 2 and 3, but then going through 5 through 10, he had several Rileys going past him, and that cost him quite a bit of time there. And unfortunate for Kimmo, but if he's going to have the pace, now's the time to show it.
And that thing as well is that the way it's kind of been for race control is that you really can't be in the way at all when you come out towards pit road. So Suman really didn't have anything he could really do. He couldn't push the issue too much, as meanwhile it looks as though that Oliver Brandt has now come down onto pit road, so he will surrender that race lead. So it is currently Stefan Muschler in first, Kimmo Suman in the second position, and then Kasa Volker does indeed maintain that third spot. I mean, look at Oliver Brandt, however. and he looks as though he's going to come out around 7th, 6th, 7th. Kevin Viekemans is closing, and it looks as though, yeah, it will be 7th place there for Oliver Brandt. So he lost out that pit stop.
Yeah, staying out longer hasn't seemed to have helped Oliver Brandt this time. The first stint it seems doing better, but as you said now, he's a bit further down than he was before. So maybe he's taking. Will they be McLaren's differ their fuel strategies, or do you think they'll all take a similar amount of fuel at this stage in the race?
It's going to be tough. It all comes down to, in my mind, what they think there's going to be with traffic. And I think there might be a couple in play. You need to have a look and see whether you can figure out the figures, see if anyone was dramatically shorter along with than anyone else. But meanwhile, Maxime Remstone there had a big run as he's trying to work on Dennis Garrison at the end of the last lap. Maxime Remstone there in the GlacierTV Neo car, and then Dennis Garrison in the Spotify machine. And it looks as though that Maxime Remstone, we haven't talked about him much in this race, but he's just been there kind of picking off positions lap by lap as David Ward goes down the inside, and that was close there.
That was
down
really
into that
close.
corner. That was really, really close indeed.
Could have been another penalty there for David Ward if there'd been contact made. He's certainly, despite being 2 laps down, he's certainly not giving in to anybody again at the moment.
I tell you what, that part of the racetrack, it would be more than just a penalty. I think they both would have been out of the race. But Yoni?
Yeah, I was just looking at the pit stop time for the GT3 cars who had done the second pit stop, and the top 3 GT3s, Kim Suominen was actually the fastest of the pit stops, but his outlap was obviously devastating. But 23.3 for Kimmo Suominen, 24.4 for Stefan Muselar, 25.5 for Saba Voluka, but actually the fastest second pit stopper at this moment is Farouk Manzar with a 14.3, so 10 seconds faster than Stefan Muselar's pit stop was.
Perhaps Farouk Manzar is trying to use a short pit stop to try and get back into play in this race, because right now he is sat down in the 7th position in the GT3 class, and we kind of expected bigger things from Farouk Manzar today, perhaps, Dan.
Yeah, Farouk Manzar he's usually a bit higher up than this, so maybe the track doesn't suit him as well as others, or maybe he just hasn't quite got into his groove, but we were expecting a bit more, I think, from Farouk Manzar today for sure.
And we just saw smoke on the front straightaway there. We're trying to figure out exactly who it was. I see a little bit of a barbecue somewhere. I'm trying to figure out whether someone missed a shift or something.
There's a DP off in turn 1, Will. I think that might be, it's a, we just seen, I think it's Kim Vidal Osterby, I think, had an off there in turn 1.
And there's something down at the final corner as well, because we just saw, I was having a look at Anders Dahl, and there was something just as he was coming onto the front straightaway. There was a lot of smoke there, in fact. Just trying to have a look to see exactly who it was. We'll get back to you on that one. But meanwhile, we have got just about an hour 20 minutes left in this race, and it's still very subdued in some ways, Dan. There's still this field is very spread out. If you have a look, for example, in the DP field, 15-second gap to.
Sorry, Oliver Brandt is going to the outside line of Maxim Ramstein, hit the pedal for 5th position on the GT3 to get touch coming out of turn 5.
Oh, that was close there with Oliver Brandt, and Brandt is now on the charge. It's that stage of the race we normally expect him to do this. He's still behind Maxim Ramstein. We'll try and go on board actually with Oliver Brandt as he comes through this sequence of corners. Now he'll come down into turn number 9 and 10. And this is very, very close racing between Oliver Brandt and Maxim Ramstein. We've also got battle. I'd say it's getting subdued, and all of a sudden it all kicks off again. Liam Williams and Lasse Brun Hansen. And these two teammates are working in the 4th and 5th position right now. The question is going to be, Dan, do they work together, or are they going to go and scrap it out?
That is a very interesting question. Brun Hansen's gone a bit wide there coming out of turn 5 then. At the end of that last lap, Brun Hansen was about 3 tenths behind Liam Williams, but Liam Williams seems to have pulled out a lot in the first half of this lap alone. But I think they're a bit too, they're 36 seconds behind George Sandman, and they're about 15 behind Nick Thiessen. So will they work together, will they not? I don't think they will work together, in all honesty, because they're a bit far behind, but we never know, later in the race they might see some team tactics if they need to.
And one of the advantages, Randy, with two teammates being this close together on the racetrack is when they're working themselves through traffic, they can kind of talk to each other over their team radio, so they'll have a better understanding of where they're going to be on the racetrack. So that way, there's actually a chance they can make up a little bit of time compared to, for example, Parrish and Salmon, if they were close together. They wouldn't know where the other guy was going. You kind of had to rely on instinct and almost a little bit of luck.
Yeah,
Parrish, sorry,
really great. I mean, having someone who's behind you, I mean, spot for you, he can talk strategy with you, it helps a ton. It also helps if you have someone that doesn't listen to a multi-21 order.
Multi-21 indeed, and Kevin Parrish was on the grass there, Dan.
Yeah, just coming out of turn 5, Parrish had a bit of a moment there on the grass. Probably lost
Oh,
himself.
a huge spin, sorry, just ahead of him. I just saw it on my screen. That was Robert De Rouge, and he is going to be out of the race there. He just lost that car. And another victim there, Randy, of the curbs.
Yeah, that curb on the outside of the chicane. Oh, that was not the one I was thinking of, but the curbs everywhere are just deadly.
Gotta have a
You
replay of
touch
it right
a little
now.
too much and it spins you around. With almost nothing you can do.
Yeah, replay up on your screen. It's actually very similar to what we've seen with a number of drivers in this race. As you come down into that corner, that curb, it looks so inviting. Because the curbs here, they're kind of painted and laid out in a very similar way, for example, to Imola, where you have to abuse the curbs on the racetrack. This time, however, works himself down into turn number 9 and 10, and he just loses it. Game over. And
Yeah, especially to the chicane like that, you need to hit the curb to get fast, but it's a risk you're taking. You have to take in order to competitive here.
Yeah, I
It's
was
kind of one of
actually
those
testing
things.
quite a bit on the. I was actually testing quite a few laps around this racetrack just to get a glimpse of with the McLaren how it actually plays out. And that corner is actually scary. It doesn't matter if you try to coast yourself around or try to do a hot lap. That corner, it seems like with these cars, you can never get it to perfection. It always seems to just fall for under you.
And of course, the ISO IndyCar Series also racing at this racetrack this weekend as well. And the ISOWC was at this racetrack with the IndyCars, and exactly the same issues apply. I've said before, that is the corners that I've struggled at the most this weekend. I mean, immediately you look at, for example, turn 13, 14. I was thinking it's the most difficult corner, but that one you can nail down with a little bit of rhythm. Turn 9 and 10, it is still a little bit of luck involved in it. It's very difficult to find a line because the groove is so narrow through that complex of corners.
Lasse Hansen seems to be in trouble. He's slowed right down. He went off the track coming off turn 3 and 4 up the hill, and he seems very, very slow. So I think we're talking about the teammates, and I think Lasse Hansen is in a lot of trouble.
Indeed, I'm having a look to see if there's any damage to his car. There's no damage per se. I'm wondering what it is with Lasse Hansen that's cost him to lose so much time. But he's currently running in the fifth, and he's coming down onto pit road.
Could it be he was short on fuel maybe, and he's maybe run out of fuel?
But he's pitted, surely.
Actually, he was the first one. Yeah, he was the one who had the 16-second stop at the first run. He was one of the few to go below 20 seconds in the pit stop time, so that could be an issue.
So he's on towards pit road. We'll keep an eye out on him. He's on pit road at the moment. He came in the 5th position. He's got Dave Geimer, who's going to pass him at any moment now. In fact, he's done so. And the gap between himself and TJ Yazlik on the racetrack, now that is 46 seconds at the moment. And taking fuel and tyres by the look of it, there is a little bit of rear damage there to that Apex Racing UK car, but that's nothing really to bring the car down towards pit road for. But we'll keep an eye out. Yep, tyres on now for Lasse Hansen, the 84 car. And I think you're right there, Yoni. I think that that short stop, he tried to do it in the middle, and he just kind of almost ran out of fuel there.
Actually, kind of dumb strategy. If you want to make a splash or a short strategy or short fuel stint in the middle, feel free. But that's not the way to do it. Oh, Suominen goes flying over the curve. I'm surprised he actually was able to save it there. That chicane almost had its 5th victim of the day.
At least 5th, and that was yet exactly the same point that Alex Howlow lost it. Very similar place where David Ward's almost lost it. Surman is driving his heart out right now.
Yeah, he's catching.
Yeah, that gap is 1.8 seconds, and that is down from what I said, 3.5, 3.6 seconds, a little bit earlier on. So he is catching Stefan Muschler. So it does show that Kimmo Surman is one of the fastest guys on the racetrack. And his last time, he was 4 1,000ths of a second faster. The time before was more intriguing. He closed up a lot more time. That gap actually is now back up to gap is back up on the racetrack to about 2.8 seconds. So I think this lap traffic is hurting Kimmo Surman more than it's hurting Stefan Muschler, as now down to the inside will go Dave Lamarche down into the hairpin, and Surman losing out a little bit there as well, Dan.
Yeah, that was actually position as well. Dave Lamarche has not been having the best of days in that Riley Daytona prototype, so he's not even got out of the. He's just coming now across the GT3 leaders, but Kimo Suminen really the struggle there. And there's also quite a few cars that will be coming up to Mouchelaar soon, including David Ward. I can see the pink Durex car picking on him pretty quickly.
And something really has got to be wrong, Randy, with Lasse Brun Hansen. It's been 2 minutes now he's sat on pit road, and it looks as though there is something that we couldn't see in that car that is causing him some big issues.
Yeah, kind of interesting. I don't know exactly what happened. Maybe engine trouble, but I don't.
Oh, now
Well,
he's
he's
back out
leaving right now.
and he's wiggling the car, so maybe he
May
caught.
have. Yeah, he might have hit a curb hard.
Yeah.
Steering.
And that's an important point to note as well, because the way these cars are, they, you know, you've got all the aerodynamic bit, but these cars run so low to the ground that if they catch one of the curbs a little bit too aggressively, really can upset the steering on these race cars, Dan.
Yeah, they can indeed, and that's probably what we may have seen with Brun Hansen. I know he's going very, very slowly, and he's lost quite a bit of time, and in fact, he's not far in front of David Ward, and despite his drive-through penalty and having the early accident with the wall coming out of the last turn, David Ward could actually, I think, still maybe get a top 10 out of this if he plays his cards right.
Yeah, and attrition was always going to be the order of the day. Meanwhile, Simon Geimer looking down to the inside of TK Yazek as they come down into turn 1. He's close and not quite close enough. He will slot back in to the 8th position. Now he's going to try and work around the outside, perhaps. That car gets very squirty, and that's one of the things we haven't talked about in this race at all, Randy. These track seams, and you know, this track's kind of laid out in a very similar way to ovals in some ways, that they lay it in seams. So you've got the inside, the middle, and the outside seam. And if you put two wheels, the same with Simon Geimer now is going to go on the inside. He's going to get the run, but he's going to be on the outside coming down into the chicane. Will Simon Geimer try and be the last late breaker? Is going to be very close. Two doesn't go into one here. He gets out of the gas and he will allow Yazek to go back past. But this track, because if you get those wheels on the seam under accelerations, Randy, it really can upset, especially in the prototypes. Really make that car very loose.
Yeah, this track is really slick coming out of the slower corner. And like you said, if you're a half a car width up, you can spin it around really simply. Not hard to do at all.
And with so many undulation changes as well, it does make a big difference. And I always, whenever I look at this racetrack, I always think about, it's got a very similar effect in Michigan, when I was never able to get on the power and I was right in the middle of the track seams, get one of the tyres on the wrong way, trying to turn that car, you're going to spin it. It also makes a bit, you kind of have to stay in line when you come into the corners as well. But Simon Geimer is still putting a lot of pressure on TK Yazek in the battle for the 7th position, Dan.
I think if it was later on in the race, Geimer would have had him going into turn 7, but he realised there's still an hour and a quarter to go, so Geimer decided it was probably better to let him go. But I think now this time Geimer's put a bit more pressure on him. He's going to go round the outside going into turn 5. I don't think he's going to make it stick, but all the time there's another DP closing up to them as well. I don't think it's position, but they are losing time. But it's come down to the same corner again. This is the downhill section, but Geimer would be very brave to put on the brakes. He's not going to. He's just going to stick behind for now.
Yeah, and the car behind him is Max Sagazzo, Sagazzino, who is sat right now in the 12th position in class, multiple laps down, but just trying to turn that car, try and get laps in it. And he is actually faster right now than these two cars ahead of him. It does look as though Yazek at this stage of the race is holding up Simon Geimer just a little bit. Having a look actually as well, and that gap between Wim Stockmans and TK Yazek ahead of him, that's about 3.4 seconds and 3.3 seconds on the racetrack. So if Geimer can get past Yazek, I've got a feeling right now, Randy, that he might be able to close up to the rear of that 6th position, number 32 machine.
Yeah, Geimer looks like he's got some good pace. He's just having trouble getting around Yazek right now.
Yeah, it's actually not just Simon having pace, but Yazek is going slowly. He's ever since Simon Geimer has been stuck behind Yazek, they've been lapping 121s, whereas the guys in front of him are doing 120s or even below that. So again, Simon Geimer is looking at the outside line, trying to get the cut under. He's actually going to make that this time around. 27 goes deep into the brakes, and there it goes.
Game over there for TK Yazek. Simon Geimer moves himself up into the 7th position, and now we'll see whether he can close down Wim Stockman, who's currently running in the 6th position. Some traffic will come into play here a little bit as well, but Dan, the only thing we could really say about that was Yazek really was doing quite a lot of mirror driving.
Yeah, he almost seems he misjudged his braking point, and Simon Geimer said thank you very much. I'll go down the inside there and I'll take the position. Also, Nick Thiessen, away from our attention, seems to be closing up on Kevin Parrish a bit. He's got the gap down to 6.5 seconds when they crossed the line last time. Just crossing the line now, and the gap is down to, it's just about 6 seconds again. So Nick Thiessen may, depending on how the traffic goes, Nick Thiessen may be in a position to threaten Kevin Parrish in the next 15-20 minutes for second place.
Yeah, Nick Thiessen was half a second faster that last time by. In fact, Nick Thiessen's second one of his fastest laps of the day. He 1 minute 17.751. Compare that to Kevin Parrish's 1 minute 18.261. And there are some severe issues there to Lasse Hansen's car. In fact, I am a little bit surprised that race control haven't waved him in yet. Conrad Venter also going pretty slowly on the racetrack right now. So a bad day there for the Apex Racing UK team as it stands right now. But that gap between Kevin Parrish and Nick Thiessen currently sat at about 6 seconds on the racetrack. And it does look as though out front, Randy, though, that Simon has got this race under his complete control.
Yeah, he's putting on quite a performance right now. I mean, George, like I said, Riku is the only one that was really close to George at all in terms of pace and qualifying, and he's showing that he's just that much faster than everybody else right now.
And that Parrish and Thiessen issue, I mean, it's kind of stabilised at 6 seconds. I mean, that time Parrish did a 1 minute 18.144. Nick Thiessen, as he come past the line, he did a 1 minute 18.144. Exactly the same lap time there for Kevin Parrish and Nick Thiessen, Dan.
Just shows they are quite exactly identical in pace, but George Salmon must have had a bit of trouble with the traffic the last lap because he's lost quite a bit of time to Kevin Parrish. It was 14 seconds, now it's down to 12, but Parrish has got a lot of traffic in front of him now, so this could be Nick Thiessen's invitation to gain a bit more time as well, because there's about 4 or 5 cars, some DPs and some GT3s here in front of Kevin Parrish. Really rough on that curb, going through 7.
Yeah, and he's going to be very lucky if he's going to get past his first one. He is. He locks out a little bit, get past the first one before turns number 9 and 10. Now he's going to have a little bit of a chance to close that gap down. He won't lose too much time here through 10 and 11 and 12, but now 13, 14, he's going to start losing time unless he can dive down to the inside. That was so close there for Parrish, and that was what you were talking about, Randy. As these laps progress, then they're not going to, be nice anymore. They're going to have to take every chance they get.
Guys, look behind him. Look behind Parrish. The battle is on.
Kimmo Surman is still there with Stefan Muslar, and these guys right now are separated by what? On the racetrack, 0.4 seconds right now.
Emo's, we said before that he was going to try and make a move soon, and the gap just fluctuates. It gets bigger, and then Kimmo Surman closes up again. But Kimmo Surman again is right on the back bumper of Stefan Muslar. I think Volker's probably about 4 or 5 seconds up the road as well. It's been quite stable between these top 3, but Kimmo Surman is going to be on the attack now, and as they come down to turn 7, he's with the draft effect as well. Maybe coming through after the long stroke, we can see a move from Surman in the next couple of laps.
Indeed, yeah, and that last lap actually Surman closed the entire second almost. Sorry, over Stefan Muslar. And I'm having a look, and Muslar is not in fact doing anything differently. I just think that he's kind of overworked his tyres this stint, Randy.
Yeah, the GT3 is, I don't want to say it's undertired, but it's pretty easy to overcook the tires. Is that Kevin Parrish off the track that they just drove by?
It is indeed. It is indeed. Kevin Parrish is off the racetrack. We're going to let you finish. But he just went completely wide. Oh no, he's hit the wall. He hit the wall in a big, big way. And this was in a complete log jam. And Farouk Manzar got together. Manzar came across the racetrack. I think he got into the curb and got a little bit loose. Came into the middle of the racetrack, caught Kevin Parrish. Parrish just slammed the wall there. And that car's toast. He's out of the race pretty much.
What
that
a
was a
shame.
hard hit.
So Nick Thiessen's now up into the second position. We're going to only have 3 cars in the lead lap. And look, he's moved himself up into a podium position. Liam Williams.
3 cars in the lead lap. With this rate, we're not going to have any cars finishing the race on Riley's.
And that was a very bad incident, I have to say, for Farouk Manzar. We'll get a replay up in a moment, but Dan,
I was faster than you.
when you have yourself GT racing like this, you can't do what Farouk Manzar just did and move from running on the curb. I can understand if he got back into that first lane, but he came right across into the second lane of the racetrack.
Totally inexplicable, really, and it's taken out Kevin Parrish, who was running in second place. It's completely ruined his race. I think Kevin Parrish should probably be fuming inside that helmet at the moment. Did Manzar manage to continue on, though, Will?
I'm not quite sure. I'm having a look, and yeah, he continued on. And Randy, what's your thoughts?
I don't think that was intentional with what Manzar did. I think the car just kicked loose on the curb and he just tried to catch it. And I think if he hadn't caught it, he would have spun right in front of Parrish anyways.
And he spins it now. Through Manzar spinning it down at the chicane there, so he's losing all forms of time. So he must have got some damage to that race car, and in fact almost collected another one of the O'Reillys. But yeah, you were saying, and I do actually give you that. I do give him that. It's like, you know, this track is so narrow, and I think that's the deciding factor. At some other tracks, he would have been able to get away with that, but that curb, once again, turn 9 and 10, keeps on catching people out.
Yeah, that was a scary moment there, and I was actually a miracle that he was able to recover from that, even though he hit Parrish, which was unfortunate. But that was pretty much as good of a work as you can get from recovering from that curve, because we've seen Suominen fly over it with managing to keep it straight. We've seen Alatello spin and ride it into the wall, and 2 or 3 other cars are there. Not sure if they actually DNF'd or something, but yeah, I would. Naturally, it is Farouk Manzar to blame, but that was race incident, I would say. What?
15-second penalty there for Farouk Manzar.
I can't believe it, honestly.
Yeah, I don't either.
It's going to be I think at the end of the day, it's one of those judgment calls. I mean, my first look at it, I did think that, you know, it looks like Kevin Parrish was just in the wrong place and Farouk Manzar came across him. Having a look at it again, I do kind of change my mind a little bit. It does look as though that Manzar, his car was just on that curb. We've seen that curb bite so many people today that it's just unfortunate. And I think, you know, the penalty in any ways, it's probably more because of the fact that it was, you know, it took out a second place driver.
Sorry to interrupt you, Will, but Kimmo's on the inside. Yeah, Suominen going too wide outside of turn 5.
Doesn't quite get the job done, but he might try and have a look down. Not into the chicane, surely, but Surman right now, he wants to get that race lead back. And I think in the next half hour, well, not even the next half hour, in the next 15 minutes, we'll get a very clear understanding of whether or not Surman will be able to get back into the lead and win this race. But I tell you what, there, he got a great run. He's now going to look at the way he goes down to the inside.
Yeah, but he is on the outside. He's on the outside into the next.
Oh, that was
close.
Tight.
Almost a bump draft there.
That's about as close as you can get without actually making contact. That was quite spectacular there from Kimmo Suominen.
I have to say, respect to both drivers.
And this is how it is in the McLaren team. And that time, again, oh no, Suominen! The curves
he almost did
a great job to hold on to that car.
That was almost a David Ford replica right there. The only difference was Kimmo actually managed to lift the throttle before he actually went sideways.
Farouk Manzar, by the way, making his black flag pit stop, 15 seconds. The official reason was changing lanes and avoidable contact. But Kimmo Suominen, meanwhile, he really is pushing that car to the absolute edge. And you'll see him, he'll catch right back up very quickly. He just can't find a way past Medler at all right now.
No, he's been stuck behind him for a last 30 minutes, 45 minutes since that first round of pit stops. And Suominen's always been there. It's very good driving by Mushla not to give in to the pressure and not to make a mistake, because it must be very daunting having a car behind you for that length of time, just constantly on your back bumper. So fair play to both drivers. They are really showing great racing skills.
They are indeed. Go on.
I have to say that Kimmo Suominen is pretty famous in the Club Finland community, because we actually made up a term. Racing term, we named it according to him, based on the fact that he is fast and he could be and he can be aggressive, but most of the time he's just plays it so safe that he actually like take that for example. I mean, that situation right there. But both guys did pushed it to as far away as they could, still without a contact. But several other drivers in that similar spot would have actually just dived too deep into the corner and would have actually collided themselves out of the race. But usually Kimmo is just maybe often we see him maybe even too patient, and this time around it doesn't seem to be the case. But out of all the tracks, Barber is not exactly the most overtaking packed racetrack of the sim, but Kimmo is not giving it a second thought, it seems.
Kevin Parrish has gotten a warning for an unjustifiable risk on lap 73. So he brought that car back out into the racetrack. Obviously there's still damage to his race car, but he's got a warning from race control. It looks as though he has now got out of the car and will be classified as out of the race. But Sermon is right back on there. We're going to stay with this battle for the time being because Stefan Muschler is still leading the way in your GT3 to run through your top 10 in each class. First of all, with the Riley Daytona prototypes, it is George Salmon leading the way, Nick Thiessen in second, 30 seconds back, Liam Williams on the podium as it stands right now in third, 44 seconds behind your race leader. In fourth, Dave Geimer. Fifth is Wim Stockman. Sixth is TK Yazak. Seventh is Michael Mayers. Eighth is Simon Geimer. Ninth is Burke Ekmans. And then 10th is Max Zagarzo. And then in the MP4, the GT3 class, it is Muschler still leading the way from Kimmo Suam, and the gap between those two drivers is just under 1 second. In third is Saber Volker. He is a further 8.4 seconds back. In fourth is Mohammed Patel. Fifth is Maxime Ramstein. Sixth is Oliver Brandt. Seventh is Kevin Beekman. Eighth, Julian Oglo. Ninth is Mike Thiessen. And 10th is Shua Pakalani. Very quickly, Dan, I want to talk to you about Mohammed Patel, because don't forget, he had a black flag penalty and he's still running in fourth.
Oh, overtaking coming, guys. Michael Mellis is on the inside, takes P6 from TK Yazagac, dives into turn 5, clean pass there.
Yep, and it was a good, quick, easy pass there by Mayas, and it was pretty, textbook pass, you have to say, Dan. As Yazak there goes wide at the chicane, that's weird.
Yeah, Yazak has been quite slow, you said, the last few laps as well, when Dave Geimer came past him. In fact, Dave Geimer has gone past Wim Stockman's as well, away from our eyes.
But he's on pit road, he's now on pit road.
That may be why then, maybe pit stops. But going back to what we said earlier about Kimmo Sumnen and Morzia going through the section at the turn 11 and 12, exactly the same situation we saw earlier in the race with Ricky Walatalo and George Sandman. I mean, we know how that one ended, so it just shows the difference between the two sets of drivers there.
Indeed, yeah, and I still want to talk about, though, that Mohammed Patel in that fourth position, because, I mean, let's not forget, this is a guy who had a black flag penalty, running in the fourth position right now, and he's only 8 seconds behind Volker Jr., and let's be honest, if it wasn't for that penalty, he could easily be fighting Suman and Muschler for the race lead right now, Randy.
Yeah, Mohammed's got great pace. Like you said, he's got that penalty and he's almost on the podium again. I mean, Kimmo and Stefan are doing a great job, but it's almost more impressive watching what Patel is doing, considering.
I mean, his last lap was a 1 minute 22.559. His fastest lap was 1 minute 21.794. He, right now, is doing about the same pace as Saber Volker Jr. He's been faster the previous couple of laps. As Kevin Parrish, to update you, is now out of the race officially. So a bad day goes even worse there for Kevin Parrish. I'm having a look at Saber Volker Jr. and I'm also having a look at the clock as well. Having a look to see these guys aren't going to be too far away from making their final pit stop, their third and final pit stop of the day. I'm having a look. I'm going to use Volker Jr. as a guide to see when these guys came in. They last came in on lap number 54, and before that they came in on lap number 27. So let's do the math. 27 added to 54, and I'm really bad with maths because I'm dyslexic, but they're due in the next 4 or 5 laps.
Yeah, the next 4 or 5 laps, and I think going back to what you said about Mohammed Patel, I actually think he would have been a genuine contender for that GT3 battle if he hadn't had the penalty earlier. And there's still an hour left in this race, so depending on what happens with the pit starts, Patel may even find himself on the podium. As you said before, he's only about 8 seconds behind Volker, and the gap between Volker and Sumanen isn't too far either, really, when you think about it.
I wouldn't be surprised if he puts himself there, because the fuel for the McLaren in this race is interesting, because there's about 5 minutes you have to find to turn the fuel if you're running hard. And if someone in the top 3 here, he doesn't hit their marks just right, they might have to make a late pit stop that'll put him on the podium.
I was just thinking about that, and I was doing my math, and they are going to be about 3-4 laps short the way it looks right now. Cars coming down onto pit road. See, I think that was Anders Dahl that just come down onto pit road. We'll get confirmation of that in a moment. Indeed, it was. So Anders Dahl, the first of the cars to blink, is on pit road. We also have Matti Ratti on pit road as it stands right now as well. Kimberdo Osterley is actually on pit road with some issues. So yeah, Dahl is on pit road right now. So this won't be his final pit stop. I don't think he'll be able to make it from here.
You can stretch the fuel from here. It depends on what you do, because if you can either go for because a 165-minute race and you can do 40 minutes on a tank is what I calculated earlier in the week since I was racing. So you either need to make a last. Yeah, it's really close.
But don't forget, Dan, we've seen this so much. Let's take, for example, the iRacing Prototype series, that Proto GT series that we've been broadcasting on some weeks. You can make the fuel stretch if you really want to. Today, it's gonna be a thinking game towards the end of this race. And when I think about that, there are people who immediately come to mind. You got Kimmo Suomen, all of a sudden, he's got himself into a great position. If he can stay with Mushla, there's a chance he can stay. And we've got a huge crash there. With two drivers. We've got David Ward and Matti Ratti involved in an incident. And I'm just having a look to see what happened. Matti Ratti there was coming out of pit road. And then David Ward just literally comes across the racetrack into him. No idea what David was doing there. And David Ward's out of the race, and Matti Ratti, unfortunately, is going to be out of the race as well. But I'm not going to lie to you, that was stupid from David and one of his best friends.
I think he's going to need a bit of time to cool down if he comes and joins us back in the commentary box, because that, I think he'll be really disappointed with himself there. They didn't seem to be, it just seemed to go over and hit Ratti. So I don't know what's happened there. It just compounds a really dreadful day for David Ward.
Yeah, we'll get the replay
that was
up.
Bad. Yeah, just on the screen, and that was bad move by David. I don't know what went through his mind. Usually David, we don't see that kind of mistakes from David that often, and it's just like completely ignored the fact that there was a guy on the outside.
Yeah, he just drifted that car to the outside curb without realising. Whether or not he didn't get anything from the spotter. I mean, that was really not the sort of stuff, as you say, that we expect to see from David Ward. Meanwhile, Julian Oligo is on pit road at the moment. George Salmon, let's turn our attention very quickly back to the Daytona Prototype. He is leading the way by 33 seconds right now over Nick Thiessen. Liam Williams, let's talk about this, guys. Liam Williams in a podium finish right now in that 15 Cup. We haven't spoken a word about him all race long.
No, he just seems to have... He's benefited from others who have had mistakes, and there could be a change of position here for fourth. Wim Stockman's under real pressure here from Dave Geimer. We were talking about Liam Williams. I'll go back to that in a bit, because we've got some real action here for fourth and fifth in the DP, because Geimer right on the tail of Wim Stockman, so they go through turn 5, and there could be a position change here very quickly.
It'll be very close as well, because at last corner, Dave Geimer was able to gain 2 tenths of a second. Looks like Wim Stockman has overused his tyres in this stint, working himself down to chicane. He's looking very lackadaisical about it, and Geimer is going to be there in the next couple of corners. And for Wim Stockman right now, it is a case of holding on. Let's not forget, however, that Dave Geimer was the one who struggled as Stockman's going wide there. This is going to allow Geimer to get a little bit closer. Let's not forget that this is Dave Geimer, who struggled for a long time to get past, I believe it was Maker Mias earlier on in this race. So it's going to be interesting to see whether he's a bit more aggressive now he's up behind Wim Stockman's.
Yeah, he's got a podium just under his nose, so he'll probably be pushing really hard, because Liam's not that far ahead from where him and Kim are right now.
It's a big gap.
Kimmo Suomen in the pits.
And also Volker Jr. on towards pit road as well for what could be their final time here today. Intriguing part is that Mushla stays out for another lap, so this is going to be intriguing. So Suomen makes that trip down on towards pit road. I take it back, actually. I believe that, yeah, Suomen is on pit road, so he's making his final stop, we believe, of the day, as is Volker Jr. But the important thing when we're talking about a fuel mileage race like this, Yoni, is that Mushla is getting an extra lap of fuel out of that stint, which could be the difference maker at the end of this race.
Yeah, but also with the McLarens, we have to remember that when you get the fresh tires on, the first lap with those tires is actually faster than these guys have been pulling out in the late stage of the session. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kimmo Suominen is able to get empty space right here as he comes out of the pits. So far, no traffic is visible in the proximity.
He's very lucky
He's gonna
there.
get he's gonna get excellent outlap this time around. And now when Stefan Muslar comes in, we'll be interested to see first of all his pit box time, because Kimmo Suominen did 23.1, actually even faster than his last time was. Muslar did 24.4 last time around. So if they match pit
Stefan's
box
going another
times,
lap.
my guess is that Suominen is gonna take that.
And
Yes.
Muslar stays out another lap, Dan.
Yeah, Stefan picked a lap later on the first stint. It looks like he's been able to stretch it out to 2 laps this stint. So this is a really key moment in the GT3 race. We still may have 45-50 minutes to go, but it doesn't seem to be much traffic either for Stefan Mujlar. So he's really putting the foot down, and this could see him extend the gap to Kimmo Suominen once again.
I tell you
Well,
what, Sermon is pushing. He was
Yeah, I'm
abusing
actually-
those curbs.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna go for Suominen in here, because if both guys have a clean track, Suominen is the one with the fresh rubber on, and he's gonna do insane lap times now.
That
And-
won't matter though if Stefan gets a shorter pit stop. It won't matter as much.
It might still matter a little bit, because let's not forget that we think these guys have got to be a little bit cautious on fuel. Every lap that it does, it becomes safer and safer for Muslar, however. That last time by, Kimmo Suominen did in fact that's a 1 minute 27 out lap there for Kimmo Suominen. So that was very impressive. Let's have a look, see what he did on his previous out laps. Let's not forget, earlier on in this race, he was held up dramatically on his pit stop. He was that time a full second quicker than his last out lap, and previously he did a 1 minute 28.2
And
as his
Muslar in the
last
pits.
out lap.
Yep. Stefan's
Stefan
it.
Muslar pulls into the pits.
So now it's that point in the race that we need to keep an eye out on Muslar to see exactly where he comes out. His previous lap was a 1 minute 21.889, so close to his fastest lap of the race right now. And Volker's off as well on turn number 5, but Kimmo Suominen right now is working himself down into turns number 11. 9 and 10 on the racetrack, so he's still got a long way to go there for Kimmo Suominen. He's not got traffic that's going to come into play too much ahead of him. Radiat Julien is a lap down, but he won't catch him, I don't think, until the end of the lap. It's going to be close, but Stefan Muslar on pit road right now. Let's not forget, he's early on, so he's now out of his pit box. He's got to make
21.7.
all that way. 21.7, that's a 2 seconds faster. Kimmo Suominen is onto the front straightaway. Muslar is running himself. He's so close now to the green cones. Now he can get going. Kimmo Suominen is not even braking for turn 1. Now he's in, and Muslar is a full 3 seconds and a lapped car ahead there of Kimmo Suominen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fantastic for Muslar. He's managed to extend the gap, as we said. But also, Kasabo Volker has really lost out on that lap. He went wide at turn 5, and Mohammed Patel took 3rd place. And I'll tell you what, Mohammed Patel is not far actually behind Kimmo Suominen. I reckon it must be about 5 seconds. Mohammed
8.
Patel is a man on a mission at the moment.
8
But-
seconds is the gap.
But I have to say, the reason is not Kimmo's out lap or the first flying lap, because he actually did the fastest lap of the whole race of the GT3s that last time around, 121.330 against Stefan Muslar's fastest lap of the race so far is 121.6. But the difference maker was Stefan's pit stop, which was 1.4 seconds faster than Kimmo did.
Randy, you called it.
Indeed, I did.
And we're talking about fresh rubber, from fresh rubber to old rubber, shall we say. David Ward,
Yeah.
welcome back to the GlacierTV booth. And just take us through that last incident, because it just looked as though you didn't see you had a car and you're outside there.
Didn't even know who was there. So sorry, mate. Yeah, I thought he was letting me have a run, and then he didn't. So we made contact. I didn't see him. No, so sorry about that.
And your day's been kind of up and down today. You managed to get the car repaired. We're pretty much last on the Rileys for a long time. Got yourself up a couple of positions, then you got yourself that black flag. Take us through the motions there.
Yeah, I'm not even sure what that was for. I don't remember having contact with anyone. So if they want to explain to me what that was about, yeah, I don't remember any contact.
Meanwhile, Liam Williams is making his second pit stop and final pit stop of the day. And this is a critical part of Liam Williams' race. Again, we haven't talked much about him, Dan, but he needs to get this pit stop done and done well, because let's not forget, pitting earlier is going to mean that he's going to lose a little bit of time to Wim Stockmans and Dave Geimer. But thankfully, Stockmans is actually holding up Dave Geimer a little bit now.
Yeah, and also I think there was quite a big gap between them as well. It was nearly a lap between Liam Williams and Wim Stockmans and Dave Geimer, so he's under no real threat of losing of positions there. But Liam Williams really he's done a fantastic job. We haven't really spoke much about him, and he's not somebody we've really come across on Glacier TV, but he's certainly making a good impression here.
Indeed, yeah, that 15 Apex Racing UK car, Liam Williams has done a sterling job here today, back out onto the racetrack, working himself down into the chicane. But I have to say it's been a great performance by that good kid, and really well done by him. And ahead of them you've got Nick Thiessen as well, and I mean, it's very easy to say, yeah, you're 40 seconds almost behind the race leader, but Nick Thiessen, we've had Rick Radicali, we've had David Ward, we've had Kevin Parrish, who's all pretty much ruined their own races almost. Parrish, of course, had that into them, but Nick Thiessen, despite everything else, is still kept it on the grey stuff.
Yeah, it's that old adage of to finish first you have to finish, and Nick's just been turning over the laps, hasn't he? It's the same with Williams and everyone, you know. All the guys like Riku, myself, we were really pushing hard because we know that George has got a lot of pace, as you can see with the 30-second gap over Nick. But Nick's in a podium position, so is William. So yeah, you know, respect to them. Good drive.
Indeed, and really looking forward to seeing what happens in this last stint for some of these drivers as well, because it's going to be interesting. You know, there's still a lot to play for these guys as they work on themselves. For Steinemann as well, I mean, that 0-2 car, we said at the start of the race, Dan, that he was the only one who we thought could challenge Riku Alatalo. Alatalo ruined his own race, and Steinemann, let's be honest, has just dominated since then.
Yeah, it was good to start with to see Riku and David Woods as well had for a little bit section that like he may have had a bit of pace amongst them, but after the initial going back to GT3, he's gone a bit wide there, has Musida, and this might like Kimmer Simmons right behind him now, and it's the same as they've been for the last hour. They've been like this. We've got about 40 minutes to go in this race, but Kimmer Simmons again right up now against the rear bumper of Stefan Mahusha.
Yeah, Kimo's got to be closed quite a bit. Because Kimo had 2 lap cars in the past, and he's made up time on him since then. So
he's got a good run there as well. The same corner he had the one before. He's done it again. He's not going to go down the inside. He's thought better of it, but Kimo Sumanen certainly got a very good run there coming out of turn 9 and 10.
I wonder if Stefan might be trying to push the fuel on the slower engine map, because Kimo is really reeling him in on all these straightaways and noticing.
I think so, yeah. And I tell you what, we'll get a clear indication as they come past start finish line once again. For those of you who haven't driven the McLaren before, you have got the 2 engine settings, so you can change the way that, you know, the fuel kind of goes to the engine, and it does save a little bit. But everything that I've learned, everything that a lot of these drivers have learned, it's always sometimes easier to do it just with your right foot. As Surman has really now got a good run as they come down towards turn number 5. Will he try and make that move down the inside line? And Musa will not be able to cut across, so Simmerant will have the chance to go down to the inside, battle for the race lead, and Kiro Surman is going to clear him. Yes, he will. Oh no, he goes sideways. So it's going to be a run down to the chicane, and we saw last time Silverman lifted off. Will he do so again? Yes, no, he doesn't, but he feeds in there as well. Silverman had the race lead there for just a moment, but then lost it. He got a little bit loose coming out of turn number 5, and sometimes that is going to be, when he does look back in this race and he comes home second, he will look at that and say, that is someone well lost this race.
I don't think he'll finish second. I think towards the end of the race, I think Kimo will actually take the victory. He's shown he's got the pace of Stefan. I think it's only, I really do think in this last stint of the race we'll see Kimo Sumanen take the victory, but that could have been it there, but they've just got a bit loose coming out the corner, and that gave Richard the incentive back to take the lead.
Meanwhile, we've got 2 cars on the lead lap. We're going to stay with this battle. We've only got 2 cars on the lead lap right now. That is George Salmon and Nick Thiessen. Of course, Liam Williams has pitted. He came out. He's still in that 3rd position for the time being. Nick Thiessen in 2nd is 39 seconds behind your race leader in the Daytona Prototypes, George Salmon. So run for your top 5 in each class. Salmon, your race leader. Thiessen 2nd. Williams 3rd. Stockman 4th. And Dave Geimer 5th in the Daytona Prototype class. And then in the GT3 class, it is Stefan Mushlar from Kimmo Surman, from Mohamed Patel, from Maxime Ramstein, and then Volker Jr. is now dropped down into the 5th spot as Conrad Venter is making his final pit stop of the day, coming in from 12th place there, and he's currently scored 5 laps down in the Daytona Prototype class. But Surman, that time, he looked as though he was a little bit calmer. Yeah, this is one of those things, David, that you've got to set up your pass, and you don't set your pass up coming out of turn 1. You set your pass up almost a lap in advance at this track. As Surman is very close to working himself down into turn 13-14 once again. And Surman, I think if he's going to make a move, he's got to make it in the next 5-10 minutes, Randy, because, you know, he's put a lot of pressure. Ever since he came out of pit road, he put a lot of pressure on those tyres. And there's only so much he can do before those tyres will start fading away. And he cannot afford to just sit behind and make half-assed attempts. He's got to. If he's going to make a move again, he's going to have to try and make it stick.
Yeah, I think the next time we'll see him go is when traffic comes into play. He'll probably try to use a DP of the pick or something like that, I would imagine. Because Stefan has stretched him a little bit the past couple laps.
And you've got one right here, Lasse Brun Hansen, and thankfully, he didn't split the 2 McLarens there. Brun Hansen's going to get a good run as they come out of the hairpin. He's right behind Kimmo Surman, and this, in fact, he is now going to split the McLarens, I think, because will he try and go? He's not going down. And this is, I'd say, this is very respectful there of Brun Hansen, because, you know, he's currently scored 3 laps down, and he's only got one other car really on his lap who he can fight for battle with, and Surman now moves out of the way. But Brun Hansen was very respectful there, just staying behind and not forcing the issue, Dan. Very respectful there.
Yeah, it was almost as if he didn't want to get a pass. He knew they were. He may have seen from the relative box that they were fighting for the victory, and knows that he doesn't want to be known as that driver who's caused a problem. And also, we got a black flag for Dennis Garrison.
Meanwhile, Dennis Garrison is being black flagged for contact with TK Yaziak. So he's another driver to get black flag. And Brun Hansen there, as they come down into turn number 1, he's kind of made life a little bit difficult there for Kimmo Surman, because he could, if only Brun Hansen was, you know, a little bit slower, he would have made life hard there for Mushla, and then Surman would have been able to get the run coming out of turn 2 and 3. But right now, your 2 drivers are separated on the racetrack by half a second. In fact, it's about 4/10 of a second on the racetrack as they come down into the hairpin once again. For the next couple of corners, Mushla will get the dirty air effect from that Ryder Daytona prototype of Lasse Brun Hansen, which will allow Surman to perhaps close in a little bit. But it's that stage of the race right now when we have to see something from Kimmo Surman. And you only talked earlier about, you know, doing a Surman, not putting too much pressure on, almost taking it a little bit too easy. Now he has got to be more aggressive.
Yeah, and I have to say that there's been patience from Kimmo Suominen in this race, but there's also been quite a bit of more aggressive driving behavior from Kimmo that I've used to see. It almost looks like at this stage Kimmo is in the attitude that's tulos tai ulos, which means in Finnish like this, get the victory or get a DNF. But that was a bold move in the last corner there.
What was that again? Tulos tai ulos.
Kind of like
Tulos
the
tai ulos
means
score a win or get a DNF.
So there you are, ladies and gentlemen, the Finnish version of the checkers or records there here on GlacierTV.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I tell you what, again O'Reilly split these 2 cars, and again it's not going Surman's way. He has to hope this Friday he's going to dive down the inside coming into this corner. This will actually make things very interesting. Surman, will he try and take the inside line? Will he try and do the pick? The Riley was slow for the centre of the corner there, and you see that actually this is going to be scary coming down this chicane, I'll tell you this, because the Riley's going to have the advantage coming into the corner. Surman's now going to try and make a move, but what this has done is it's closed Surman right back up. That is the important part. Meanwhile, Mikael Meres and TK Yaslek have both come down towards pit road. Nick Thiessen has come down towards pit road as well. This is the battle right now for the GT3 race lead. We have got ourselves 36 minutes and 20 seconds left in this race. And this battle has been going on for the last hour and a half now between Kimmo Suerman and I have to say, Kimmo Suerman in that number 5 Glacier racing car has been strong all race long. But Stefan Muslak led after the first pit stop. He's led ever since then. He's not relinquished that race lead for love nor glory. And right now, the gap between those two drivers, as Suerman goes a little bit sideways, is half a second on the racetrack.
They've been bumper to bumper all race, haven't they?
Yeah.
Pretty much. I mean, it seems to be that Muslak has been better on pit road and being able to get normally a second and a half, but Suerman just reels that in. He's just not been able to find a way past Muslak ever since he's kind of got into that dirty air. And in fact, this gap has now grown to about 8 tenths of a second on the racetrack, as Patel making his final pit stop of the day.
Yeah, it was 8/10 of a second, but now after the Riley gets past, I think it was the Dave Geimer's Riley that gets past both of those guys, it's down to 0.5 of a second once again. So, by the way, we got a spinner. I think it's Mike Thunisen out of turn 5, gets his car sideways, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you are, Yeni. That's exactly correct. And it was just in front of the overall race leader, George Salmon, who's actually soon going to be coming up to Dumina and Majula for the GT3 lead. Here comes Salmon now.
Yep, Salmon. These guys still about 4 tenths of a second between them, and Salmon is only about 2 seconds behind these guys right now, and hopefully he might be able to get at least one of them on the front straightaway. It's going to be close as to whether he does it, because of course these two McLarens are going to get the job. Salmon, he's going to get past Suerman. Will he get past? He won't get past the other one, so he's going to split the McLarens once again. And I have to say, Randy, there's just been no luck at all there for Suerman these last couple of laps.
But Suerman is going to have the advantage now going into turn 5 there, because the Riley is surely going to take the inside line, and which means that either Muslak has to take the outside line through the whole corner, or he has to back off, which he now did. And the Riley!
Nick Thiessen!
That was close.
It was very close.
And there is
indeed.
Suerman close again. And now the Riley is on the outside, which means that Muslak either has to back off, which means that Kimmo is right in his tail, or, yeah, that's what he does. He just leaves slightly to let the Riley pass, but that opened up the door for Kimmo again.
Meanwhile, the number 9 car, a 15-second stop and hold penalty for an incident in turn number 1 on lap 87. The number 9 car is Dennis Garrison, and we talked about that just a moment ago. A 15-second stop and go penalty for him. And Suerman is now very close. He's as close as he's ever been.
Yeah.
If he can get a good run out of this sequence of corners, get a good run into the front stretch, this could be his chance.
Yeah, but it looks like Kimmo is much faster, but he's much faster in the wrong segments of the racetrack. I mean, in order to set up a pass, you cannot do it in the last corner, in the fast groove. You cannot do it in the middle of the SS, and those are the sections where Kimmo is really reeling him up. But now, as they come into the sections where he has to set up the pass, right here, get a good launch out of this corner, a maximum launch out of this corner, and dive into the inside of the turn 5. Again, he just has that 1.5 car lengths, and that's 1.5 car lengths too much.
So, it's gone.
I think he just needs to send it down the inside. It's the only way he's going to get it.
This is coming from you. He's been involved in how many incidents today, David?
1.
Okay. And
he needs to do it like Zanardi did at the corkscrew. Just do it at the chicane right here.
Do it. And of course, with half an hour left to go, at some point, I think Suerman's going to make that move. But he's been stalking. I think he's just been looking to see exactly where he's faster. So I'm intrigued to see whether Suerman will be able to find a way past these next couple of close points again. You see, he gets a great run into turn 11 and 12, but you can't really do anything at that part of the racetrack.
Yeah, he gets.
There we go.
He's outstanding coming out of the chicane, but the fast chicane. But then when you go into that zone, the SS, there's really not a place you can set your car into. You basically would have to be side by side the whole through the whole SS in order to set up a pass there. It is doable, but it's pretty unlikely.
I think it's going to come down to traffic.
Yeah,
really.
I'll give you that one.
I think it's going to take Stefan getting really unlucky for Kimmo to get by. His chemo's faster, but like we've been saying, just faster where you can't do anything with it.
So don't forget, keep in contact with us. Use the hashtag use the hashtag GlacierTV, alternatively IRNeo. And we'll ask the question: do you think Kim Il-sung will win the race, or do you think it is going to be the car who has led pretty much 2/3 of this race, Stefan Muslar, who in that number 18 car has led ever since the first pit stop of the day? Use the hashtag IRNeo. Don't forget also you can let us know on our live stream chat as well. And guys, we've got half an hour left to go in this race, and there's not, let's be honest, there's not been too many battles going on recently, but this battle for the race lead in DT3 really has kept us all entertained.
Guys, what has happened to Saba Valuka Jr. in P5 in the GT3 class? He all of a sudden just disappeared.
I have no idea, we'll have a look.
Possible transponder issue there, but I think it's more terminal, I'm afraid.
Yeah, we're having a look to see what happened to Volker Jr.
Mohamed Patel is going for the heavy, aggressive overtaking from Julian Olego into turn 5, but both cars, they were on both sides of the track there as they came into the braking zone. Both cars twisted left and right, and they're still too wide going into the, approaching the S's. Looks like it's going to be the late breaker in here. No, the situation cancels itself out, but that was close.
And Dan, for Volker Jr., he actually lost it all the way down in turn number 9 and 10. Same way we've seen some other guys done. He straightened the car out, but that car was still loose. It was kind of swerving. He brought the car back onto the racetrack, but then the final time, as soon as he got onto the brakes again, he had the tyres all over the place. He had dirt in them, spun it into the grass, and it looks as though from there he decided to park it. Game over.
Yeah, it didn't help probably with the fact that he had all the dirt on the tyres from the initial off, and then his made a factor in towards that. But Mohamed Patel really on the back of Olego here. And we were saying before about Kimo had to make a move, and I think Patel is going to try and make a move here as well. His car coming out the pit lane as well, not quite going to get in their way, but it's very close to there. That was very, very close. But I think Patel will be looking to make that move into turn 5 again, because he's got right behind him.
Very, very close. In fact, he's going to be tough for him to make the move this time. He will be late on the brakes. Patel is famously good on the brakes. Meanwhile, Kevin Vikermans is down on pit road. But we're getting a replay up on your screen momentarily about this incident, which has pretty much paid the end of the day for the guy who's been in the top 5 pretty much the entire time.
And again, the same curve on the outside of that fast chicane, and that's just started up the what do you guys call it? The tank slapper effect, and
yeah,
that just kept like replicating, and just basically he ran out of road there.
Yeah,
I think we're almost double digits on that curve, aren't we?
I know. We got the tank slapper on, and then he got it. He got it straightened out. But I think by the point that he got it straightened out, he'd done so much to his car. Like when he tried braking for 11 and 12, it just wouldn't do what he wanted it to do. He'd upset the tyre pressures and everything in that car. But I think you're right. You know, we have the Wall of Champions in Canada. We have turn 3 at Brazil. We have the Darlington Stripes, and I think today we've got ourselves the Barber Curb, which, you know, these drivers are trying to become a member of.
Yeah, I think it'd be safer if they just put a minefield out there instead of the curb. Take out less cars for sure.
And the battle for P5 is really heating up again. Mohamed Patel has got a good run approaching turn 5 against Julian Olego.
Yep, coming down. And it seems to be that Patel, after he made his move, he's got the car right behind him, let's not forget. And this is Reddit Julien, who is scored laps down, but still on the thick of the action here. And Patel, he's getting very close, but like Surman, he's not been able to make the move. He gets a very good run through the chicane there, but because of the fact that if you're in a situation like that, you can't get on the gas until the other guy ahead of you does, Patel loses out all the way through 9 and 10, as you see through here. And Patel is really aggressive over those curbs, but very lucky, as Mike Knudsen also, by the way, is onto pit road. But then into 11 and 12, this is a section of the racetrack actually that Patel is really good at, and it sets himself up in good stead for the rest of the lap. And it's coming to 13 and 14. In fact, the dirty air really just hurting Patel a little bit, but you see he closes all the way through 13 and 14, and now into 15, 16, he's right on the rear bumper as they're coming down the front straightaway. And you see Patel is looking to the left. He's going to have to go defensive now as Olego is coming down into turn 1. Patel won't make the move here, But unlike Surman, it looks like Patel can set up his moves. He just needs to be a tiny bit closer, David.
Yeah, it's so hard to pass. I mean, in the DPs it's hard enough, but in the MP4s, because they don't have like much aero on them, it's so hard to get close. And then you have a DP traffic coming in, taking your line away from you, so you can't get on the power. And I can see why Chemo's dropped well far back from Stefan now. So yeah, he's really struggling with traffic coming through. So I'm not sure if he's going to be able to do it in the next few minutes.
But don't forget as well, as I said, that those first couple laps he put so much on his tyres. Maybe he's over-abusing just a little bit, and we've still got 25 minutes of this race left to go. And Mujla, he's going to have one car into the chicane, he'll just come past him. And this will close Surman up a little bit. And now, hopefully for Surman, he decides to hope that BMW bank car ahead of him will try and make the move down into the chicane. Because that gap right now is 1.2 seconds on the racetrack. And for Stefan Mujla, he's going to lose out a little bit here, perhaps into turn 11 and 12. Here comes to Gazzanino as they come down, and they almost touched there. And that was close, and it does close the gap down to 9/10 of a second as they work through 13 and 14. Gazzanino is going to try and make the move again, and I think that Mujla is like, not this corner, wait until the front straight away and let me have my position, because that gap back up to 1.1 seconds on the racetrack. It's going to be 1 second as they come past the start finish line, and once again Surman unlucky, no actually, because two of the riders came through in succession. That gap is now back down to half a second.
Yeah, it's back to what it was at before, and they're enough bumper to bumper, and coming down, we can get down to 15 minutes left, 10 minutes left. Will we see Kimo maybe make a move? As we were saying before, another term for it, is it going to be win it or bin it?
Meanwhile, what do you do if you're leading a race by, I don't know, 40 plus seconds?
Go to the toilet.
He set the fastest lap of the race twice in a row. George Sanders did a 1 minute 17.012 on lap 105. He went purple again on lap 106, a 1 minute 16.334. Fastest lap of the race to George Sanderman. He really is doing the Sebastian Vettel thing right now of making sure he sets fastest lap, leading the most laps and everything else. But with over 2 hours of this race complete, Sanderman is dominating in the DP class, as Surman is close once again to work themselves through 11 and 12.
Yes, Sandman really needs to do the switch from Sebastian Vettel maneuvers and switch to Ayrton Senna maneuver to bring a little bit of action to the leader of the DP. Since we lost, I didn't really say that, but
are you talking about Monaco 88 again?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do that.
Someone just type a message to him and tell him to slow down, take it easy. It'll break his concentration.
Multi 21. But let's be serious, guys. We've got ourselves 23 minutes and 23 seconds of this race. Mujla is still leading the way from Kimo Surman in this battle, which I know we have stayed on it for quite a while, but it is by far the best battle we have on the racetrack. To run through your field in each class, first of all, in the Daytona prototypes, it's George Salmon leading now by 46.5 seconds over Nick Thiessen. Liam Williams in third position, Dave Guyman fourth, Simon Guyman in fifth, so the Guyman brothers doing really well today. Two of them in the top five. Wim Stockman's in sixth, Michael Mias in seventh, Bert Eggman's in eighth, Lassie Brun Hansen in ninth, and Max Gazzino rounding out your top 10. A huge number of retirees in your Ryder Daytona prototype field. We'll run through them at the end of the race, but your GT3 class, it is Stefan Mujla leading the way from Kimo Surman by 0.8 of a second, and that gap has been kind of similar to this for the last 40 or 50 laps. As the gap really is close now between these two drivers. Maxime Ramstein in third. Oliver Brand, I talked about how he'll get himself into the top five once pit stops are done. He's now running fourth. Julian Oligo is in fifth. Mohamed Patel now down into sixth. Anders Dahl in seventh. Kevin Beekman's in eighth. Hugh Pakalami in ninth. Rick Mantar rounding out your top 10. Don't forget, keep in contact with us on Twitter. Use the hashtags GlacierTV or IRNeo. I'd like to give a shout out to Carrie Kisman very quickly, and she says, will you have a very sexy voice? Well, thank you very much. I don't know how I trained to do it, but we'll leave that for another time.
Had an accident. Nick Thiesen's had an accident with a GT3 car, and that...
Oh,
That's
no.
Farouk.
I
It
can't,
is.
but that is a... It was...
That's the same car that, I think, yeah, it was Kevin Parrish. Kevin Parrish and Farouk Manzar has been involved in an incident now with 2 of the guys who was running in the top 3 in the DP class, and it was coming down into the famous turn 9 and 10, and Nick Thiessen there, he's trying to make the move down to the inside, and I'm actually, I don't know what to say about this one, because at the end of the day, Thiessen should have been turning into the corner by that point, but Farouk Manzar possibly turned into the corner a little bit early, but you have to do when you're on that outside line. But Randy, unfortunately, Nick Thiessen is very slow right now.
Yeah, he's actually going to get a drive-through penalty for that. That's avoidable contact. I don't think the stewards are going to look to.
What?
Yeah.
I don't know.
They're
That's not really a corner. You
and a
can pass
penalty.
there.
Yeah,
I mean-
they'll give it Nick. You're the faster car passing. If you contact GT car, the rules state you're going to get.
Yeah,
you're
but
gonna get
I mean-
a drive-through. I know. I don't make
Nick
the rules.
was right beside him. Nick was right beside him, and the McLaren just came right into him.
Yeah,
It'll be interesting to see what race control do, and it's one of those issues, unfortunately, that it's very easy to put the blame on either side, and so often these things are subjective, so we have no real idea of how it's going to go. But thankfully, Thiessen is still running on the racetrack. That is the important thing, and we'll have a look as well to see whether or not Farouk Manzar is still running as well. Indeed, he is in that Alpine Stars car. But the important thing is that again, that second place driver has been the unluckiest guy on the racetrack all day long. I mean, we've had Ricky Eletaro from second place ruin his race. We've had David Ward from second place ruin his race. Kevin Parrish from second place ruin his race. Nick Thiessen from second place almost ruin his race. So, guys, whoever's in second place, just drop back to third. You get second place back at the end.
Kimmo Suominen is actually almost looked like he was trying to pinch Stefan, using the outside line, pinch him into the penultimate corner and just try to get a proper run on the main straight. But Kimmo is much faster than Stefan is in the last sector of the racetrack, but just cannot seem to get it right where it should matter if you want to set up a pass.
Yeah, and you've got to get it. You've got to start that run through turn 11 and 12. Get close up to the car. And then through turn 13, 14, 15, 16, just try and get yourself into positions that coming out of it, you are literally right on that bumper. Very quickly, Anders Dahl is down on towards pit road. We got ourselves less than 20 minutes of this race left to go. But for Kimmo Suominen, I mean, we've been talking about him now for so long. He's not been able to get the job done. And that's the important part over Stefan Muschler.
But he still has 19 minutes to do so.
18 minutes, he's got himself about 12, 13 laps left to go. So there's still a lot that can happen here. And for those of you who are just joining us, welcome to Glacier TV's presentation of the second round of the Neo Endurance Series, the Spider 250 here live on Glacier TV. Will Vincent, Dan Blake, David Ward and Randy Shenworth will be bringing the cars home in this race. Racing here at Barber Motorsports Park for 165 minutes. We'd like to give another shout out to the sponsors for this race. First of all, DerekSpearDesigns.com. Derek Spear Designs offering you the biggest choice of button boxes in the entire sim racing community, and also iRacing Denmark as well. For more information on iRacing Denmark, go to iRacingDenmark.com. Meanwhile, let's turn our attention very quickly. We'll get at least one of these guys keeping an eye out on the Suerman battle, but let's turn our attention very quickly away from this battle for the race lead in GT2, because there are still a number of battles that are left to be resolved in this race, and one of them that is kind of the kick in my eye right now is that one between Julian Oliga and Mohamed Patel. Because Patel, like Suerman, has been struggling to get past the car, which in theory he's been much faster than this entire race, Dan.
Very, very interesting how the GT3s just don't seem to be able to make the moves when required. It's almost as if they just can't get alongside. We saw similar in the race at Sebring last week as well, just how that it was quite hard to overtake. And I think Kimmo Suominen must be fed up with the sight of Stefan Mujar's bump back at the rear of the car. That's about all he's seen for the last 2 hours.
Sorry to interrupt, but Oliver Brandt
Yeah.
ahead of Patel and Oligo just disconnected.
Yep, we've just seen it, and it was coming out, I believe, of turn number 3. Oliver Brandt just clipping yet another curb the wrong way, speared it into the wall, and is out of the race.
Aligo's pitted though, so that's freed up Mohammed Patel.
Yep, so illegal on pit road. So Patel's essentially gained 2 positions in as many laps here. And for Oliver Brown, we'll get the replay up on your screens momentarily, but once again, David, yet another curb incident.
Yeah, it's so, you're just trying to push that extra little bit, you know, trying to gain everything that you can, and you just run out wide. You don't think you're running out wide, but next thing you know, the car spins around on you, and there's nothing you can do on it. I know exactly how Oliver's feeling right now, because I was having some curse words as I was sliding into the wall. So yeah, Oliver's going to be throwing things around.
Guys, Michael Mealis is finally getting his way past the Riley of William Stockman that was missing the entire front end of the car. He's been stuck behind him for like 6, 7 or 8 laps. Finally gets the job done with the deep braking into turn 5, and now William Stockman has to deal with Bert Aikman's in 8th position right behind him.
And I tell you what, so oh my god, it's all happening in this mid part as well. David Lamar going off the track, coming back onto the racetrack, and there's a huge gaggle of cars. Simon Gaiman, Mohammed Patel, Jura Pakadami, all of them struggling for their part of the racetrack. The gap right now between Simon Gaiman and Mikael Mayas is 38 seconds on the racetrack, so nothing really to be too concerned about between these 2 drivers. So it looks as though that we're going to get 2 of the Gaiman brothers, Dave, in the top 5 in this race.
Yeah, the Gaimers are really good, really consistent drivers. They just pound out the laps. Not the fastest people on the track, but as we've shown today, you haven't got to be blisteringly quick to finish this race. You just need to turn over the laps. But yeah, the Gaiman brothers, great run. Top 5, they're going to be really happy with that. Liam Williams is going to be really happy with his podium if he makes it to the end, and Nick Pearson's doesn't look like he's actually had anything from race control, which was quite good.
Yeah, it was one of those, it was probably of all the incidents we've seen today, it's the one that was the most, you could take either way, and I think out of anything, it was, of all the racing incidents we've had, that was probably the most racing incident we've had all race long. However, we'd like to welcome into the GlacierTV booth Oliver Brand. And Oliver, your race was going so well as, guys, very quickly, Kimmo Surman and Stefan Muschler onto pit road. So, Oliver, I might have to cut you off, but it all went wrong for you at turn number 3. And unfortunately, we can't quite hear Oliver Brand. Oh, can we?
No, I can't.
No.
So yeah, we'll try and get back. We'll try and get back to Oliver Brand. Oliver, we'll try and get your mic sorted out. But meanwhile, Muschler and Surman, and Surman's ahead.
Surman beats him in the pits.
So Kimmo Surman, after being behind, and I was just about to say that for the first time in this race, Muschler came on the same lap as Kimmo Surman. The last time we saw that was on the first pit stop. Muschler pitted 2 laps earlier. Surman somehow gets out ahead.
Kimmo Surman is pit box 10.5 seconds. Stefan Muschler's pit box 14.6. Where did that 4.1 seconds come from?
Kimmo must have been fuel saving or something and only needed a little bit to get him to the end. That's the only thing I can think of.
Well, we suspected that all these guys would have had to make one more stop anyway. I'm having a look, and coming into their box, no issue at all for Muschler at all. In fact, Muschler, you could almost argue, had a better entry than Kimmo Surman, but that is back to how it was at the start of this race, and Kimmo Surman back to the race lead. And you know what? Back after Surman made that move down into turn 5, it didn't work for him. I was thinking that he wasn't being that aggressive at all. He wasn't trying to force an issue. So I think then, David, that you were right. He was just saving a little bit of fuel, and I think that really did shock Muschler right there.
He actually had to save quite a bit of fuel. I mean, to save 4.1 seconds requires a full click in the in-car computer. When you're adjusting the amount of fuel you want to refill, 1 click equals to I think 1.2 gallons of fuel. That takes quite a bit to save, and I have to say I'm amazed that he was actually able to do that.
Unless, of course, someone has actually been saving fuel, perhaps been light.
Surman is struggling. Surman is struggling right now. He made 2 mistakes in 2 corners.
So this has put Muschler right back up with him. we'll talk about that in a moment.
And
But David
he's
is going to be
slowing
very
down.
close. Yeah.
I think Chemo is still saving fuel. I think he's just
Yeah,
trying
I think-
to stretch
yeah, I
it
think
as
he
much
has-
as he can.
Yeah, I think
Hey, mate.
Kimo has a
Oh!
alternative fuel map here.
Yeah, definitely. There's
Because
something
he's
going
like
on
a
here.
worm on the straights.
Yeah. Did he take tyres as well?
No,
Ah.
you wouldn't take tyres
Oh,
in
that's
10
the
seconds.
issue. If he didn't take tires, he has to struggle the first 5 laps. It's going to be huge. Because
Yeah.
the car behind you is going to be all over the place in every single corner exit you can think of.
That's where he got his time wrong, because they'd already put the fuel in and they didn't take tyres, so he's running now. He's got to just defend like hell. But as we've seen before, you know, you can be the faster guy, but if you're out in front and you hold your line, they're not going to come by.
I think in the next 10 minutes we're going to get a masterclass on what we can call defensive driving from Kimo Sermon. It is going to be very intriguing to complete this race. We have got 10 minutes and 40 seconds left of this race. You're watching Glacier TV's presentation of the Neo Endurance Spider 250, and we've got not a lot of time left to go. In the Daytona prototype field, we apologise for not showing as much of the Daytona prototypes
Far
the
off
last
turn
hour
one
or
behind
so.
Chemo with the pawn. Hard into the wall.
Sorry?
Evan Beckman hit the wall hard out of turn
Oh
one.
god, yeah.
Right behind Chemo and Stefan.
Yeah, and he came down into turn 1.
Oh,
Here we
okay.
go.
Guys,
Side by
lead
side.
battle. Kimo's
And
on
Stefan's
the outside
taking
and
it
he's
back.
going to take the lead. Yeah, Stefan takes the lead.
So we'll take Stefan Buscher and put him back into the first position. And the question could be, either did Kimo Sermon make a mistake by not taking tyres, or did he not put enough fuel in his car?
My guess is that he actually gambled the pit stop by taking 1 click less of fuel, and that therefore it means that he has to save fuel right now. But in all honesty, that's the only part of the racetrack where I can't think of any rational reason. I was going for
Oh
the-
my god,
Oh
that
my
was
God.
closed down the inside.
Yeah, but my guess is that that's the worst possible place that you can hold the fuel map in a fuel saving position. I honestly believe coming out of turn 3, if Kimo is going to regain the lead, that's the only part of the track where he cannot keep that fuel map. He has to switch it back to full power.
Uh-huh.
I actually thought he would have already realized that, because last time around Stefan was so strong on the brakes.
Kevin Beekman's, by the way, getting a warning for a risk for rejoining the track after he made that huge crash down into turn number 1. He is okay, however, he's out of the car. And Sermon's still losing a lot of time here, so it looks as though that he might have faded for the time being in this race. Oh,
Okay,
I'm
doesn't look
betting
like
right.
Then.
Yeah, that is Conrad Venter there in the 12 car, who is spun the wrong way around, getting back onto the racetrack. And Venter currently sat in the 11th position in class, and to allow all these cars to stream past him. Now we can get going again, but they're going from bad to worse there for Conrad Venter.
Yeah, it didn't look like a tire issue for Kimo Suominen, because the part where Stefan got the run on him approaching turn 5, that was pretty much a normal exit situation where you go flat out after that for the longest part of the stint, and that really looked to me like I would put my money on the basket which says fuel economy, because that just makes no sense for him being that slow at the end of the straightaway with that. Like, even though you might have the worst tires you can imagine, that's not the place where you actually could ruin corners so bad that you would lose that much time at the end of the straight.
We would like to try and welcome back into the Glacier TV booth Oliver Bryant. And Oliver, hopefully we can talk to you properly this time, but
Hope so.
turn 3, it all went wrong for you.
Yeah, I was trying to hunt down Maxim after having some bad luck in traffic. That's how it goes. I was steaming a bit, a little furious about it. But I knew if I could just keep that gap down a little bit, I'd jump at least Maxim and possibly my teammate Mohammed, since I've been doing 2 laps more per stint than he has throughout the race.
And let's talk about that, because we can talk about it in commentary. We talked to you on Thursday about your infamous fuel saving. And when you consider where you started the race, it wasn't the best qualifying position, it wasn't the worst. You started in 5th, but you lost out a little bit at the start. But that fuel saving, it really kind of got you back into contention before that incident.
Again, I couldn't go a lot faster than that without if I decided not to save fuel. So I knew I was nowhere on pace. So I just had to sort of get the strategy working my way, and yeah, well, just couldn't pull it off in the long run, I guess.
And of course, the next time we'll speak to you, I believe, will be in 1 month's time, first weekend in May, Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. You looking forward to it?
Yeah, it's going to be quite interesting. Really looking forward to trying it out there. Just not sure which car I'm going to be in yet.
Be the Ford.
Alright, Ford it is.
Blue Oval all the way, man.
Yeah. Blue over all the way. In fact, feel free to stick around there. We've got ourselves 6 minutes left of this race, so feel free to stick around. And to give you a final update on your top 5 in each class, it is in the DP, in the Daytona Prototype class, it is George Salmon now with a 56-second gap over Nick Thiessen. Liam Willingham still doing the Apex Racing team proud in 3rd. Dave Guyman 4th, and Simon Guyman running out your top 5. So 2 Guyman still in the top 5. And then in the GT3 class, it is Stefan Muschler who's been able to retake the lead from Kimmo Surman after he fell into 2nd position on that round of pit stops. Ad has pulled away the biggest gap he has had all race long. Mohamed Patel in 3rd, Maxim Ramstein in 4th, and Julian Oligo rounds out your top 5. And guys, it looks as though that Surman, his gamble just did not pay off.
Yeah, he didn't. He had to gamble though, because I don't think there was going to be any other way for him to get by. So it's a shame, really. But it's just like Stefan. I don't even think Chemo's got tyres on his car, or he's like turned the fuel down, because he's so off the pace now. It's ridiculous.
123 last lap. So that is either saving the fuel. That's a combination of things in my mind. And that's the entire 2 seconds slower than we've seen from Kimmo Surman earlier on in this race. But Dan, we said at the beginning of this broadcast that it was for the McLarens going to be down to strategy, and for Stefan Muschler, let's not forget he came into pit road 2 laps later, the first 2 stints. So that final stop, he was always supposed to be shorter, and I think that gave him the opportunity to take tyres and luck out there.
Yeah. Oh, we got an incident on track as well. Lassie Brew Hansen has got overshot turn 5, and that's allowed Matt Squizino to take 9th place. But yeah, as you're saying about the GT3s, it's that extra bit of manoeuvre for strategy is probably going to give Muschler the victory today.
So,
sorry to interrupt, but the chicane almost took 2 more victims than Wim Stockman and Bert Eschkeman. Wim went off wide and almost spun.
That chicane has just been crazy all race long.
Oh yeah.
It's the best 2 corners on the whole track. It's
it's fun.
Oh yeah.
It's fun,
Especially
but it's
in the
fun in a
McLaren
terrifying sort of way.
I'll tell you what, I was doing a time trial in the IndyCar early on today, and every single one of my laps that got invalidated was because of that chicane. And it's such a driver's corner. And people look at Barber Motorsports Park and they think it is a little bit Mickey Mouse until you race here. And yes, it's going to be tough to pass, but you've still got to put in 100% energy. It's tougher than at so many other racetracks in North America. Consider it, it's probably tougher than Mid-Ohio, it's probably tougher than Road America. Tougher than Sebring almost.
I don't. Mid-Ohio is harder than this, but this is, Mid-Ohio and Barber, they're both drivers' tracks, because they have the undulations, they have the level changes. When you have that, like having something that's completely flat is a bit boring. So, but this is, there's some real tricky corners on here, especially just after the real fast chicane, and then you come down again and then back up and over the crest. I'm surprised that there isn't more people have lost it there, because the car becomes so light as you go over the top, the wheels start spinning.
I lost it in the ISAWC race earlier on today at that corner, and I know my good friend Jonathan Goke lost it at the same corner as well in that fast chicane. Meanwhile, we've got 2.5 minutes left of this race to go, and let's turn our attention, because I think this man deserves it now. Let's turn our attention to George Sandman in that 02 car, because this guy has been the class of the field. Yes, you could say if Ricciardo Tallo was about, it might have been a different story, but as David perfectly alluded to earlier on, to finish first you have to finish, and George Sandman has not put a foot wrong this entire race.
Yeah, he's been absolutely faultless from start to finish. I think that he could have actually made, when I was following them earlier, I think George was way quicker than Riku, but he just decided to hold back and just keep like tapping off the laps really. So yeah, he's a good driver anyway, and raced against him in the DP series quite a lot. So we've had some really good battles. Unfortunately, we couldn't do the same today, but maybe on the next one.
Maybe on the next one indeed, but we've got ourselves 1 minute and 20 left on the play clock. It's going to be by our watch, the white flag. Yeah, indeed, this time by the white flag will be in hand, so there'll be one more lap left to go here at Barber Motorsports Park. Down into turn number 1 comes George Sandman, and I think David put it perfectly. Not a foot has been put wrong today by George Sandman in this race. When you consider his lap times, his fastest lap is a 1 minute 16.335, the fastest lap of the race, and he did that when he had no one around him. He's just been playing about these last 2 stints almost. Nick Thiessen in second, don't take anything away from him. He had an off moment, he had a collision of Fruit Manzar, but he's still able to come home in the second position, and in my eyes, the standout driver of the day, Liam Williams, in the 3rd position in that 15 car. Many people haven't known about Liam Williams too much, but that guy has really brought himself to the fold here today in the 2nd round of the Neo Endurance Series. He spied a 250. George Salmon worked himself through turn 9 and 10 for the final time. He's got traffic ahead of him, that won't come into play as he comes down into 11 and 12 for the last time here. He can almost coast it. In fact, he can probably get out the car and walk it home now. Maximilian Ramstein having to make a pit stop, a splash and dash on the last lap. That is going to hurt him pretty dearly there, as he was scored in the 4th position. He'll fall back behind Oligo and Farouk Manzar, but meanwhile Salmon comes past the start finish line and he wins the Spider 250 for the Daytona prototype class, and a great victory by him. It's going to be a long while for Nick Thiessen to come past the line, but need not, because Stefan Mujla will now come out of the final corner for the last time, and he is going to take GT3 victory here. And Kimmo Surman, a determined driver, didn't go right for him on that final pit stop, but Kimmo Surman comes home in 2nd, and Mohammed Patel will come home in the 3rd spot. And I tell you what, Patel, he's still on the racetrack, but a great drive by him as well. And guys, for both Salmon and Mujla, very deserved victories.
Absolutely.
Yeah, George, faultless throughout. Stefan, Chemo, a bit surprised really. I thought Chemo was going to get this one, but he just his strategy didn't play out.
And we talked about fuel economy. Julian Oligo, Dan, running out of fuel on the last lap, and he's not going to make it home.
I think that's very unlikely. He's very, very slow. He's about halfway around the lap. He's just coming downhill now. And
didn't he just cross the finish line already behind George?
I think he may have done it. Has he? Yeah, I think he would have done it.
Okay, he's coasting.
Yeah. I think he's finished, actually, my mistake.
Yeah, we'll take that back. So, cars coming past start finish line. Nick Thiessen has completed his race. Liam Williams as well. A great drive by him. And we're just waiting for all of the cars to come past start finish line for the final time. Then we can run through the final race results. And in fact, we believe that everyone has now come past. They're doing a kind of Harlem Shake burnout there into turn number 5 with the Spiders. So, be interesting to put the cameras on that momentarily. Kevin Beekman's involved with that, with his teammate Wim Stockmans and also Bert Eggmans as well. But I'm going to take a very quick sip of water before I do this. We're going to run through your final race result. We're going to start first of all in the Riley Daytona prototypes. And first of all, George Sandman takes victory in a time of 2 hours and 45 minutes exactly there, taking victory from Nick Thiessen by 1 minute and 1 second. Liam Williams in 3rd, Dave Geimer 4th, Simon Geimer 5th, Mikael Mias in 6th, Bert Eggmans in 7th, Win Stockmans in 8th, Max Zanino in 9th, Lassie Brun Hansen in the 10th position, and then in 11th is Conrad Venter, 12th is Dave for the Marsh, 13th Steve Hobbs, 14th is Kim Veldo Oshby, 15th is TK Yazak, 16th is David Ward, 17th Kevin Parrish, 18th James Weiss, 19th Riccardo Tallo, and 20th is Zach Hill. And then over to your GT3 class, it is Stefan Mujla in 1st, Timo Surman 2nd, Mohammed Patel in 3rd, Maxime Ramstein in 4th, Julian Oligo in 5th, Farouk Manzar in 6th, Radiat Julien in 7th, Anasar in 8th, Hugh Pakalami in 9th, Dennis Garrison in 10th, Mike Thunington in 11th, Kevin Viekmans 12th, Jean Baroni in 13th, Oliver Brandt in 14th, Xavier Volker Jr. in 15th, Matty Ratty 16th, Robert DeRouge in 17th, Gert Hugenen in 18th, Chuck Johnson 19th, Stephen Coppen in 20th, Randolph Shenworth in the 21st position. Driver of the day, starting with you, Dan.
Liam Williams, I think, is quite a good shout. I think Liam Williams has really put himself in the spotlight. I actually don't think I'd ever commentated on a race with him before, but he certainly impressed me. I know George Salmon did a perfect drive near enough, but I think Liam Williams definitely, I think I'll give it to him just because he's come out of nowhere really and put himself on the map today.
Randy?
I think Stefan being able to hold Chemo off for as long as he did is no easy task. And he did it great. Chemo was right on his bumper and didn't give in to the pressure at all.
Ioni?
Probably Dave Geimer. In my recollection, he did quite a few bit of nice, clean overtakings against people who were not saving fuel, not damaged cars, etc. And in my eyes, at least, Dave Geimer had a very clean race, so my vote goes to him. And by the way, our apologies for the final result sheet, which actually showed Maxim Ramstein in P2 instead of P4, which was due to the last lap pit stop that he had to make.
Turn 4. And David?
Yeah, Liam Williams, great drive from him, really solid. I bet he's going to be over the moon with that result coming up from 7th on the grid. And Nick Thiessen as well, I think those two drivers deserve that.
I think I would agree with you on both counts there. Meanwhile, welcome to the Glacier TV Neo Endurance Spider 250 post-race show, and we'll start with our driver interviews with our race winner, Mr. George Sandeman. Congratulations, welcome back to Glacier TV Victory Lane, but that was a tough, long race for you.
Yes, that it was. You guys got to stop doing these real long ones. You're going to give this old man a heart attack.
I tell you what, though, I mean, you had that battle with Rick Bellataro at the start of the race. You got ahead of him when he made a mistake. Then he decided to bin it, and then you had to drive like hell to get a gap over Kevin Parrish before that first pit stop. And from then, I'm guessing it was more kind of managing the car, but then you decided that you wanted to set the fastest lap of the race.
It seems like you kind of you got it all laid out. It was about exactly how it went.
I mean, so take us through that start of the race. Ricky starting on pole, you started on second. Kind of the first couple of laps were as they were. And then what was going through your head when you saw Ricky make that mistake down at the chicane?
Well, first of all, in qualifying, I was kind of a little upset. Riku kind of backed off going through. Actually, it was almost just like the IndyCar qualifying yesterday to Justin Wilson. Had the same thing happen to him. And I was on a 0.4 better lap, and I just had to back off and couldn't get another lap. But anyways, I thought I would just shake it and not let it bother me in the race. I noticed Riku didn't seem to be real smooth. I knew that if I just stayed there that he might be making a mistake. I just don't think he had enough practice. I know he's fast. I know he's really good, but I just have a feeling that he came into this race a little bit unprepared.
Correct. He actually had 2 hours of practice because of electrical failures.
But,
Yeah,
I mean, let's talk about that qualifying thing first of all. And I mean, I'm guessing in some ways it is kind of a bit of luck of the draw of open qualifying like this. Finding a space in the racetrack with so many drivers, even though, they split it by class, it's still difficult with 20 cars on the racetrack to find, a gap to not only prepare for your lap, but to do it without distractions as well.
Yeah, it is tough, and I haven't went back to look at the replay, but it did look kind of deliberate to me. But I'm not one to hold grudges. So, but I tried to give Rico a little room when he went off. He tried to come back on. I tried to give him a little room, but I guess I saw it said contact 0 and then contact 2. I don't know. I just felt a little bump. I don't know how hard we actually hit, or if it was more of a lag hit.
It was the gentlest of hits. Literally the gentlest of hits, and the two would have been from the fact that Ricky then went onto the grass and lost control a little bit. But I mean, then you got yourself onto first position, and Ricky was trying to make the move back on you, until he bended down the chicane again. What are your emotions going through then when you were trying to get that gap over Kevin Parrish, or before that first pit stop?
Well, I really just wanted to get in laps that didn't have a lot of traffic. Traffic was so hard to pass here. A lot of them I would try to go offline, and they'd kind of ride the middle. Some of them I wasn't real familiar with them, so I just would back off. When I didn't have the pressure, it wasn't too bad. But when there's pressure and you got to push it a little bit, it can get a little frustrating. But luck.
And then, I mean, it's like one thing. It's like we've got to ask: do you think that race would have been different had there if let's say Ricky, for example, was in the race and it was a close fight for first and second position the entire race long? You talked about, for example, traffic was tough to pass. Do you think that would have been a key factor had it been a closer race between you and some of the other drivers?
Oh yeah, traffic always comes into play. It just makes it whether you actually push it or not. I had the advantage to where I could just back off. Some of my laps were 120s, 122s. I was running laps that were times of the MP4s, just backing off. There'd be 3 or 4 of them in front of me, and their race made it. But I did see there. I did try to get him, make sure I had a gap on him. He can be kind of dangerous.
And you got victory here today. You managed to set the Sebastian Vettel setting the fastest lap when you had nothing around you to add insult to injury for the other drivers. Question is, when we head over to our next race in 1 month time at Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, first of all, what car are you thinking of running? And second of all, do you think you can come back to Victory Road again?
Yeah, I'd like to run again. I'm ready to run another 2.5 hour.
Let's do a rematch.
David Ward versus George Sandeman coming up next.
There we go, David.
But congratulations on the race win. Any idea what car you're going to run at Spa?
Is this a winner's choice?
Well, I'm guessing you get to choose your car, don't you? I don't know, but I mean, which car out of the 3 would you enjoy running the most, shall we say, at Spa?
Oh, what do they run at the Spa? Is it at the HPD?
Yeah, it's the NMP, the GT1 and GT2. Yeah.
I might stay with. Depends on if I even had a chance to run. I've been running mainly the DP lately, so I would just like to stick with it, maybe.
Well, congratulations on your race win, and do me a favour and keep on beating David Ward for me, because I love seeing him upset when he comes back onto TeamSpeak.
Thanks.
But that is George Sandman there, your race victory here in the Neo Endurance Spider 250. Moving on to our second place driver, Nick Thiessen. And Nick, you had a solid race here today. Was able to stay out of almost every incident except for that one with Farouk Manzar.
Yeah, good evening. Yeah. To be honest, it was a little boring. Yeah.
That field did get spread out very quickly in the DPs, and in fact, that's a very easy question to ask. How did he keep that mental concentration going on a race which, for a lot of the drivers in the DP class, was, very, I wouldn't say boring, it's more, you were racing yourself more than other drivers.
Yeah, that's true. So I think I could have got Kevin, but he was like 10 seconds ahead of me. So I still had something to pour. Until he went off, and then it was, and I started making mistakes.
And then you had that incident with Farouk Manzar coming down into the now famous turn 9 and 10. Take us through that incident from your angle.
Yeah, it's a combination of just losing concentration and just driving your line without really paying attention. I guess it was, I think I was alongside, so it was not really a horrible accident, but I could have waited because I had all the time in the world.
And when you consider the fact that you started this race in the 5th position and you started, about 6 tenths of a second behind Ricciardo on pole in qualifying, is the second place more than you could have asked for? here today?
Yeah, I think so. I think there were at least 4 people much faster, but they all went out. So in the end, it's a good result.
And final question: are you looking forward to Spa in 1 month's time?
Yes, very much.
What car?
Yeah, I'm actually not sure yet. I think I might go for the HPD again.
HBD there for Nick Thiessen. Congratulations on coming home in the 2nd position. Now to move over to the 3rd place driver and also the GlacierTV driver of the day from the Neo Endurance Spider 250, Liam Williams. Welcome to the GlacierTV podium, and I have to say, from nowhere, you got yourself up into 3rd position, and a great drive by you here today.
Yeah, just all I really had to do was keep it clean. I had a good, stable setup thanks to the guys at Apex Racing, and yeah, it was quite a quiet race, really.
I mean, you qualified 7th, involved in a couple of battles early on, but that DP field did get itself very spread out very quickly. It was all of our concern, you know, that if that field was very close coming up to traffic for the first time, it would have been a huge mess. But I guess you could almost say it was lucky, the fact that, you know, there wasn't a huge gaggle of prototypes together come the end of lap 10.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I didn't quite have the pace to keep up with Lassie, Kevin, and Nick ahead of me, and I think I had a little battle with TK behind me, but I think he fell off the road. And then, yeah, because I had such a big gap behind me, I knew I didn't really need to push too hard, and I could take my time around the McLarens.
And how was it dealing with the mental concentration of, you know, not having to race and the heart rate settles down a little bit, the adrenaline kind of wears off a bit? How was it just, you know, managing your own times on the racetrack for the majority of that race?
Because of the length of the race, got difficult towards the end, and I was pushing a little bit to try and stay on the lead lap on the last few laps because I noticed George behind me. But yeah, I'd done a couple of the official races, so I was happy with one stint. So yeah, I just took it a stint at a time really and tried to pace myself, and it wasn't too bad in the end. I think because I didn't have anybody to battle with, except Lassie at one point around the first pit stop. Yeah, it wasn't. I didn't need as much concentration as I would have thought I would have done.
And the next time we'll see you on GlacierTV will be at Circuit Spa Francorchamps in 1 month time, in the HPD or in the Corvette or in the 4GT. Which one are you likely to go into?
Oh, I'm not 100% sure. Probably the Corvette. I've only driven that once at Road Atlanta in the Petit Le Mans last year, and I really enjoyed that. So yeah, if I can get some practice in early, I'll definitely be back for that one.
Well, congratulations on your 3rd place finish, and congratulations also on GlacierTV's driver of the day. And normally you actually split on that, but you kind of got a resounding yes from pretty much everyone, so well done on that. Coming home in 3rd place here today. We'll move over to the wonderful world of GT3 momentarily, and we'll talk to our 4th place driver in the GT3 field. In fact, let's just double check on that because my timing is still messed up. But Mohammed Patel, he came home 3rd actually, I take that back. Maxime Ramstein pitting there on the final lap of the race, giving you a spot on the podium. So congratulations there on a 3rd place finish.
Yeah, first of all, what's it called? He pitted behind me, so I was 3rd already.
Okay.
But the race was actually very tricky, especially because I was really in the middle of nowhere in that pack, too slow for the top 3, and just slowly pulling away from Julian, Oliver and Maxim. So it was quite a lonely race, and the only time I really had drivers around me was after the final stop, and I had Julian, who was on a different strategy ahead of me, and the odd DP coming around. That was the only time I saw McLarens.
I mean, you got yourself a warning from race control for an incident coming out of pit road, but apart from that, it's been a pretty, an interesting. I have to say, you had kind of more action than a lot of the other guys working your way up through the field throughout that race. I mean, how tough was it having to manage your own times? I mean, starting 4th, falling back a little bit, then moving back up and falling back down a little bit. How hard was it to keep that concentration going and kind of keep focus throughout that race?
Focus was the hardest thing because it's not many times in iRacing that you ever do a race longer than an hour, so that is a unique feature in this race. But I was really like stationary in the field. It was just because I messed up my fuel strategy. Basically, from the second to last stop, I accidentally put in half a tank, so that made me pit really early for the last time. I had to fuel save to make it to the end as well. So that was the time when I dropped down to like 8th. But bar that, I was like stationary between 4th and 3rd throughout the whole race.
And I mean, at the end, coming home in the 3rd position, was it what you expected? What you hoped for? Could you have got any further? Do you think? Because I mean, let's not lie. I mean, you were pretty close throughout the entire race to both Kimmo Suleiman and Stefan Mush. You were only about, within about 10-15 seconds the entire race.
Well, I wouldn't have been able to do much better, or any better really. I hoped for a top 5 before the start of the race, and that's what I got. To stay within 30 seconds of Kimmo in a whole race, 2.5 hours. Well, something that I wouldn't have expected with his pace.
Well, congratulations on your 3rd place finish. When we head over to Circuit Spa-Francorchamps in 1 month's time, first of all, what car are you going to be driving? Secondly, are you looking forward to it? And thirdly, are you going to... what was it? What are your expectations, even?
I will race at Spa, definitely after this one. I don't know about the car. I only have the HPD at the moment, but I want to buy the Ford, so I might do that. And expectations, finish again, I guess.
Well, congratulations on that 3rd place finish in GT3. We got ourselves about 5-10 minutes left, so why don't we welcome into the GlacierTV booth the guys who've done some wonderful work in race control here today. First of all, to Neil Heckins, and also to Egil Sandfield as well. Guys, from your perspective, it's been an eventful race.
Yeah, indeed, it was very. I didn't know that Barber just eats cars like that. It was very treacherous. A lot of cars sprung into the wall because of the curbs. Some very hard decisions had to be made, especially the one with Farouk and Nick Tisse.
Yeah, and I mean, there have been a number of penalties here today. We noticed also that you guys actually took your time making sure you reviewed the incidents. The one that we felt was the most difficult to have a look at was the one with Heckins and Manzar, which is down into the famous now turns 9 and 10 of the racetrack. But I mean, how difficult was it for you here doing all of the work on that, reviewing the incidents?
I hope it wasn't with Heckins and Farouk, but if you are thinking of the one with Thyssen and Farouk,
yes, that's the one.
Yeah, we took some time to review it from different angles, and we came to the conclusion that it was a racing incident with no further action because Nick Thyssen was on the side of Farouk. You can say that Farouk, he turned in while Thyssen was on the side, but Thyssen, meanwhile, he didn't turn to the left while he was on the side. So it was kind of a fault from both drivers, and I think they were quite exhausted at that point. So we gave it a no further action.
Well, it's been a great race here today. And when we go to Spa in 1 month's time, we're going to be having 3 classes once again with the LMP2 Honda Performance Development ARX, also the Corvette C6R representing the GT1 category, and the GT2s represented by the Ford GT. From your eyes, which one do you think is going to be the most exciting to watch?
Personally, I'm much of a GT fan. I think a lot of that action in that class, either being Ford or Corvette, is quite extraordinary. But we have seen some dramatic racing in the HPD as well, so I'll give it up for all three classes, and nothing has been decided yet.
And before we go, we have to give $5 away, and that is going to be to the person who sent out the best tweet of the day. Now, in my superior power as lead commentator, I've picked out the best 2, and we're going to have the votes here live on Glacier TV. Option number 1, wreck yourself out on lap 1, commentate the race instead. This was a blast. Hashtag IRNEO at Glacier TV. Hashtag I will have nightmares of the curbs. Alternatively, you also have this is the winning comment and a question. Hashtag IRNEO. So option A or option B? We'll start with you, Yoni.
B.
Dan?
B.
David?
B.
Egil?
A.
Nick?
A.
No. Neil?
B.
Mohammed?
A.
Liam?
A.
George? George isn't here. And Randy, you're going to say A anyway, so I think that just makes it 1 vote in favour of Terry Dalberg. So Terry Dalberg, congratulations. This is the winning comment. It actually is the winning comment, so you're now $5 richer. Get in contact with us and we'll give you $5. Congratulations. And unfortunately, that is all we have time for here today.
Oh.
So, who?
Can I just quickly say the winner of the Clean X Award today, awarded to the most clean driver with least incidents, is going to be, once again, Dave Geimer for doing only 1 incident through the entire race. So well done to him.
What driver of the race?
That's crazy.
No, and let's give a shout out actually to the Guyman brothers because they had a really good race there today. And today, congratulations on the Clean X Award. Congratulations on also being Yoni's vote for the driver of the day, and a good race by both Simon and Dave. And we'll see them both at Circuit Spa-Francorchamps in 1 month's time. As I say, unfortunately, it is time for us to leave. Before we go, don't forget that the next time that the Neo Endurance Series will be here on Glacier TV will be in May, and I need to get my calendar up, so bear with me one moment. It will be on the 5th of May. It will be at Circuit Spa-Francorchamps, where they'll be racing for 500 kilometers with the LMP2 Honda Performance Development ARX 01C, the Corvette C6R representing GT1, and the GT2 Ford GTs. 5th of May, start time for that will be at 1800 hours GMT. And don't forget, also plenty more action to come here on Glacier TV, starting with this coming Saturday, the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series round number 4 at Road America. We also have the Sim Racing Team Challenge on April 18th, the Polar GT $1,000 Cup. If you thought that Proto Race was good, wait for Polar GT. That is coming to you on April 21st. We also have the VR GT Series and more action from the iRacing.com World Championship Series as well. However, from myself, Will Vincent, from Dave Judson, from Dan Blake, from David Ward, from Randy Shenworth, from Neil Heckins, and from Egil Sandfield, and from Yoni Backman. I think I've got everyone in there. If not, I apologise. It's time to say goodnight. Good night! Ladies and gentlemen, history in the making. He's going to get that pass done. He's going to be the first victim of the day. Just look at the run. Look at him go on the outside line. 3 wide on the outside. He's going to hold that outside line. No.